What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 10TG Chapter 191 What are you, Coffin Candlecross? Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. The fortune teller was named Basil Hawkins, and he was one of the 11 supernovae in the future. Hawkins was bored waiting for customers to come to divination, but most people in this city did not believe in divination, which made Hawkins doze off while guarding the shop. Suddenly, Hawkins caught a glimpse of a figure appearing at the door from the corner of his eye and subconsciously asked, "Fortune-telling, what are you, something, Babo?" At this moment, the two of them were a little confused. Is this guy in front of him really a fortune-teller? I'm Trafalgar Law, we've been in touch on the internet before. The adopted grandson, whom Marshal Sengoku has been thinking about, now finds Hawkins. Luo wears a furry winter fur hat with leopard madara points, eyes with specially personalized dark circles, and two small gold earrings on both ears. Wearing casual long-sleeved and light blue trousers, he has a smiley face tattoo on his chest and a black tattoo similar to the one on his clothes. There are heart-shaped tattoos on the chest and shoulders, and a tattoo of his own pirate logo on the back. And there are letters on each finger of both hands, and the combination is death, which means death. Only 14 years old, dressed more like a delinquent than Bartolomeo. Before, Venom contacted Luo and Hawkins as the master of the internet. After thinking about it, the two agreed to Venom's request and decided to go to the Grand Line to make a fortune. Because of Venom's matchmaking, Luo and Hawkins also got in touch, and planned to meet in a place to form a pirate group together. So it's you? Is that white bear behind you your pet? It actually wears clothes like humans. Sure enough, the cold in North Blue is unbearable even for polar bears. Hawkins quickly sobered up, trying to resolve the previous embarrassment with cold jokes. However, what made him even more embarrassed was that the polar bear in his mouth said, "I am not a pet, I am the captain's partner." Huh? Hawkins' expression changed upon hearing this. Embarrassed. I didn't expect this bear to speak human language. Cough, Luo, have you formed a pirate group yet? Hawkins changed the subject again to try to resolve the embarrassment. Well, I temporarily formed a group of red-heart pirates, currently only me and Beppo, do you want to join? Luo didn't talk nonsense and cut directly to the topic. The Lord of the Internet promised him that as long as he joins the Lord of the Internet will fully assist him in revenge. Since Rosinante's death, Luo only has revenge in his heart, otherwise he would not have the letters representing death tattooed on his knuckles. I'm free, by the way, do you two want to consider fortune-telling with me? Forget it. I'm very accurate in fortune-telling, I know astronomy and geography, no matter what you count, I can satisfy you. I reject. Really don't think about it? Not consider? Well, let me pack my things and leave later. Hawkins was a little helpless, fortune-telling is not a good job. It seems that there is still a future for being a pirate. In this period, Hawkins' fortune-telling ability is not as good as when he appeared in the original book. After all, this line of work depends on seniority, and the older you are, the more experienced you are. It is precisely because in recent years that Hawkins felt that he would not be able to get ahead in the fortune-telling business. He already had the idea of going to sea to become a pirate, but the connection with Venom made him completely determined. Otherwise, Hawkins would still struggle in his astrology house for several years. In this way, Luo, Babo and Hawkins embarked on an adventure to find the master of the internet. Grand Line, the waters near Whiskey Hill. After sailing on the sea for several days, the Ziwei pirates and their team have experienced more than a dozen weathers, including snow, rainstorm and strong wind. It is not for nothing that the climate of the Grand Line is changeable and treacherous. In such changeable weather, the Emperor's Star finally sailed to the Whiskey Sea area, and it would land in another 5 kilometers. Captain, there is a ship ahead. In the captain's room, Nami, who was driving the Emperor's Star, found an abnormality through the telescope and quickly told Sikong Ye about it. What ship? Sikong Ye stopped exercising and walked into the captain's room to ask. It looks like a small sailing boat. The mast is a bit like a cross. There are candles on both sides, glowing with a faint green light. It looks particularly pervasive. Could it be that the captain of the ship died in his family? There was a man on the boat, wearing a top hat, but that man's back was facing us, and he couldn't see his face clearly. He was holding a slender branch in his hand, and he seemed to be paddling hard. Paddle with sticks? Hearing Nami's description, Sikong Ye was suddenly amazed. It reminded him of someone, and that was Dracul Mahawk, one of the Shichibukai. Whether it is a cross mast or a dark green candle flame, it is the characteristic of the ship driven by Hawkeye Mahawk. As for the name of the ship, Sikong Ye couldn't remember it clearly, it seemed to be called a coffin boat or something, it sounded inauspicious anyway. Coupled with a series of funeral props, even 8-year-old Nami can tell that someone in Mick's family is dead. But who died and for how long, the original book did not mention it in detail, so Sikong Ye is naturally unknown. What makes Sikong Ye feel unbelievable and incomprehensible the most is, isn't it rumored that Mahawk is paddling with a black sword? Why are you using branches now, Nami? Does that man have a great sword with a cross on his back? Hey Dao Yi is not here. Could it be that I have identified the wrong person? Sikong Ye was not sure, and immediately grabbed the telescope in Nami's hand to check. After some confirmation, Sikong Ye was sure that the person sitting on the coffin boat that was about to dock in front must be Mihawk. Mihawk has joined Shichibukai, and he has a pretty good relationship with Redhead, so there should be no enmity between him and our Ziwei pirates. After thinking about it, Sikong Ye finished assessing the danger of Mihawk, and prepared to lean over to say hello to him. Many friends and many paths, Mihawk is still worth making. However, people as wise as him in this world are rare after all, and there are still many fish who slip through the net of the 9-year obligation like to die. No, there are a lot of pirate hunters gathered at the port of Whiskey Peak at this moment. Their original plan is to welcome the new pirates from all over the world, get them drunk, kill them and seize the treasure. Asking for flowers. You can even take off the heads of pirates and bring them to the marine branch in exchange for bounties. However, after seeing the scene of Mihawk rowing a boat with a branch, they all couldn't help laughing and began to mock. Ha 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 ha, what the hell is this guy doing? Actually paddling with a branch, this is the most interesting new pirate I have ever seen. Don't say that. Maybe they just accidentally lost their oars, and temporarily replaced them with branches, and it's definitely not easy for people who can sail in small boats, so don't provoke them. I said, brother, why don't you be so timid? You say that those who are on a big boat have a lot of background and can't be offended, but now when you meet a small boat, you say that the other party is not easy or can't be offended. Just go back to your hometown to farm like you got it. That's right, this guy doesn't know what he's suffering from. He actually used a coffin as a boat, and even made crosses and candles. I don't know if he's going to a funeral. I think we should give up this money. It's unlucky to rob a funeral boat, and this guy's property is only so small. It seems that we won't make much money by robbing him. Zero. Shut up. No matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat. If we don't open our doors, we will soon be unable to uncover the pot. If you don't grab it, go away. By the way, don't you guys think this guy looks a lot like Hawkeye, one of the Shichibukai? What are you thinking? It's rumored that Mihawk never leaves his body with a knife, and the knife is always with him. This guy obviously looks a lot like him. That's right, it's said that Hawkeye is very precious, his Hei Dao Yi, and he's good looking, so it doesn't look like this guy looks like he doesn't want to be beaten. All the pirate hunters were discussing with each other, and most of the pirate hunters were mocking Mihawk. These words fell into Mihawk's ears, which aroused the anger of the Shichibukai, who immediately raised his palm and waved the branch, and suddenly a slash with powerful sword energy slashed towards the port. Crash! In just a few seconds, almost all the pirate hunters in the port of Whiskey Hill were cut in half. The pirate hunters who escaped by chance were all scared to pee, and even a few were scared out of their minds. On the Emperor Star, which was nearly 4 kilometers away from the coffin boat, Sikong Ye unconsciously shook his hand holding the telescope. Nima, this group of pirate hunters really want to die. After all, they make a living by offering rewards. Hasn't anyone seen Hawkeye's reward order? Or do these guys recognize swords but not people? Nami, let's set sail. Let's not go to Whiskey Hill, let's go directly to Little Garden. Sikong Ye urged. The reason why he went to Whiskey Hill was just to train the crew with the group of pirate hunters. Now everyone is gone, and Mihawk is obviously angry at the moment. Didn't they court death in the past? But I don't have enough magnetism to go to the next island yet. What kind of magnetism is there? Couldn't the navigator in the captain's cabin guide you? Sikong Ye was a little speechless. That's cheating. Only by using the pointer can I improve my sailing skills, Nami said with a look of course. Chapter 192 Three Swords Idiots. Hawkeye has been poisoned by the Dubu Sword Realm. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. Listening to Nami's unreasonable declaration, Sikong Ye's face collapsed. You're dying and you want to improve your sailing skills, Nami, you're adrift. How can? Okay, I am the captain and I have the final say, turn to set sail. Seeing what Nami wanted to say, Sikong Ye interrupted directly and forcefully. The less trouble, the better. Sikong Ye didn't want to provoke Mihawk, who was in a rage. However, when Nami compromised under the majesty of the captain and had to steer the Emperor's Star to turn around, there were several rebuttals on the deck. Captain, don't go. Pull the boat over and let us meet that powerful swordsman. That's right, Captain, every time I compete with Zoro, I feel so boring. Mr. Captain, please let me witness the famous sword of that powerful swordsman with my own eyes. Zoro, Kuina and Tashigi suddenly broke into the captain's room and stopped Sikong Ye, who was about to lead the crew to escape. The three of them are sword idiots. When they sensed the sword energy coming from the Whiskey Hill just now, they immediately stopped what they were doing and ran to the deck to look at it with their naked eyes. Although they couldn't see who the opponent was, they were all attracted by the strong, 360 sword energy. They wanted to challenge the person who burst out with such a powerful sword energy. Sikong Ye looked at the expressions of Zoro and the three eager to try, and felt a little helpless. He actually forgot about these three sword idiots. In the original book, Zoro challenged Hawkeye in the Balati restaurant, even facing death without any fear. Now Zoro, Kuina, and Tashigi are three people with the same personality. If all three of them go up to challenge, won't Hawkeye take it all at once? The man who swung the slash just now is named Dracula Mihawk, one of the current Shichibukai. His swordsmanship is unparalleled, and he belongs to the realm of great swordsmen. Your current strength is not enough to deal with it. Sikong Ye persuaded him earnestly, but the three of them did not agree. Captain, after hearing what you said, I want to challenge him even more. The fighting spirit on Zoro's face was completely irresistible. Captain, we followed you to the sea to challenge the strong in the sea. If you don't let us chase our dreams, then the girl will never leave the Emperor Star. Kuina showed her determination in swordsmanship. I'm not challenging, I just want to see Senior Eagle Eye's Black Sword Knight, Tashigi said Nanuo. Sikong Ye said it was difficult for the three of Zoro to rush forward to seek death knowing that they were invincible. But he knows very well that the world of One Piece is a world full of dreams, freedom and friendship. Zoro's dream is to become the world's #1 swordsman. No, since Sikong Ye came, the dream has been changed to the world's #1 swordsman. Kuina's character design is very similar to Zoro, and Ince's obsession with famous swords is equally strong. Therefore, Sikong Ye wants to forcibly stop them from chasing their dreams, so in the end the two parties may really have to part ways. And Sikong Ye feels that his Z-Way pirates are getting bigger and bigger recently, but he is always looking forward and backward, afraid of provoking powerful enemies and making him return to the pre-liberation overnight. But as he had said to Garp before, people in the arena involuntarily. If you are always cautious, it is better to go home and farm. After thinking about it, Sikong Ye finally nodded. Okay, it's not impossible for you to see the ceiling of this world, but you have to listen to me later. No problem, as long as it allows me to challenge that man. Zoro agreed directly, and Kuina and Tashigi also nodded in agreement. Then, with the sound of Nami, he happily drove the Emperor Star to Waishan port quickly. 10 minutes later, the Emperor Star docked at the port, and Sikong Ye disembarked with a group of crew members, while Poki, Lee Kei and Laboon were left by Sikong Ye to guard the ship. Ever since the coffin boat docked at the port, Hawkeye has been standing on the shore, quietly watching the Emperor Star and the Z-Way pirates. Hawkeye has short black hair, eagle-like sharp yellow eyes, a short beard, and a black top hat with white fluff. He often wears a burgundy-patterned shirt, a black windbreaker, white trousers, and black boots. Especially those sharp eagle eyes stared at Sikong Ye's many crew members trembling. Sikong Ye walked not far from Eagle Eye, and greeted with a smile. Hey, isn't this Senior Eagle Eye? I often hear about the red hair. Ahem, I often hear the red-haired Shanks mention you. Sikong Ye played the emotional card as soon as he came up, completely drawing a line with the group of pirate hunters, so as not to be affected by Hawkeye's anger. I did hear the redhead talking about you, but the redhead probably wouldn't mention my identity in front of you. Hawkeye saw through Sikong Ye's clumsy lie at a glance, and said in a cold voice. Sikong Ye. Sure enough, these big guys are not easy to fool. He said it when he was drunk. Presumably, Senior Eagle Eye knows that the red-haired guy will say anything when he is drunk. Sikong Ye forcefully explained with a dry smile. In this regard, Hawkeye did not continue to respond. And Sikong Ye didn't know what to say for a while. Uncle holding the branch, why does your boat look so similar? Luffy is about to speak but Usopp, Sabo and Ace cover their mouths together. Sikong Ye saw that Luffy really couldn't control his troublesome mouth, but fortunately he arranged several people to supervise Luffy in advance. Otherwise, the straw hat on Luffy's head might not be able to save him today. Today next year, Luffy's grave will be able to weave another straw hat. I heard that you are the #1 swordsman in the world? I, Zoro, will challenge you today. However, Luffy had just been pushed down here, but Zoro couldn't help but jumped out. Seeing this, Sikong Ye didn't bother to care about it anymore, let him do it if he wanted to die. Anyway, he has already brought the relationship with the red hair to the fore, presumably Hawkeye won't be too hard on Zoro and the others. Show your sword, I, Kuina, will also challenge you. Kuina's right hand was lightly holding the hilt of the sword of vowed victory behind her back, her face was as resolute and strong as ever. Tashigi didn't speak, but kept looking at Hawkeye with his eyes, trying to find the legendary black sword Yato. It's just that after she looked around, she didn't find any knife on Hawkeye's body. If I had to say it, Hawkeye was holding a branch in his hand, and there were a lot of branches piled up on the coffin boat. Challenge me? You are too young and too weak, it doesn't make any sense to me to challenge you. Hawkeye shook his head and refused without hesitation. This is also normal, if any cat or dog can challenge Hawkeye, wouldn't he be bored to death every day? Senior Yingyan, here I have some insights into swordsmanship that I got from the tomb of Senior Dugu, do you want to listen to it? After noticing that Zoro and Kuina were going to force it, Sikong Ye spoke first. The reason why Senior Dugu was mentioned was also because he saw a boatload of tree branches on the coffin boat. In addition, Hawkeye's black knife, which was always on his body, disappeared at night, which reminded him of a certain possibility. He once published Dubu Chiubai's experience of sword state with the help of Duo Lage. Although not many people believed it, there are always 10 swordsmen who are obsessed with the way of the sword. Obviously, Hawkeye was probably poisoned by his kendo experience. Only then did he abandon the sword and pick up wood, trying to cultivate a realm above the great swordsman. Hearing Sikong Ye's words, Eagle Eyes flashed. Why'd I have to trade according to your request? I can completely threaten you, and still get the information I want from you. I believe Senior Eagle Eye who can make friends with red hair is not that kind of person. Ha ha ha, okay, you really deserve to be the boy praised by that red-haired guy. If that's the case, then I agree to your deal. Hawkeye smiled heartily, and turned to Zoro and Kuina. You guys go up together. No, I want to fight you one-on-one. Zoro immediately became unhappy. Kuina also expressed rejection. I also want to single out, so that it will be fair. Sikong Ye put his hand on his forehead. Whether it's 2 version 1 or wheel fight, it seems to be all right. Zoro. Kuina. Oh right, how could they forget such an important thing? 0.7. Even if it was a one-on-one fight, it would be obviously unfair for Hawkeye to fight another one of them after being consumed. How about splitting this battle into 2 rounds in the morning and afternoon? Zoro scratched his head for Hawkeye's opinion. Hawkeye was also drunk because he was afraid that it would be unfair to him when he saw the 2 Lil Doubtings competing with him. As far as this level is concerned, 10 wheel battles have no effect on him. Green Hat Boy, you come first. This consumption is insignificant to me. Hawkeye directly called Zoro. Who are you calling a Green Hat Boy? I'm obviously a green algae head. Ah bah, I'm obviously a prairie green. It doesn't matter, let's use the knife quickly. It doesn't matter, it's a very important matter, and where's your knife? After Zoro vented, he found that Hawkeye didn't have a knife on him, so he asked immediately. Hawkeye raised the branch in his hand. This is my knife, as long as you can cut off the branch in my hand, you will win. This was cut down by Hawkeye when he left Krojgan Island, and so far only 358 branches have been used up. Chapter 193 Luffy Hockey God makes up a sword. Let's scatter Senbonzakura. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. When Zoro heard that the conditions for defeating Hawkeye were so simple, his cheeks blushed instantly, feeling that he had been humiliated. Stop looking down on people. My goal is to challenge the strongest swordsman and become the #1 sword god in the world. Immediately, Zoro pulled out the Zanpakutō Senbonzakura and put it in his mouth, with the magic sword Thousand Blades in his right hand and the ever-changing Teigu in his left hand. The whole person was ready to go. Seeing that the battle was about to break out, Sikong Ye immediately led the crew back. With a distance of more than 1,000 meters, the group became a melon-eating crowd. Eagle Eyes watched Zoro like an angry lion, his face remained calm. I'm different from those idiots who use all their strength to fight a lion against a rabbit. Although your momentum is very good, you come from East Blue, which is known as the weakest sea. A branch is enough. Veins popped up on Zoro's forehead. Damn it, I'm very strong. Frog at the bottom of the well, let me show you how big the world really is, Hawkeye said coldly. After saying that, he stopped where he was, obviously intending to let Zoro attack first. 3 Blades Wolf Slayer. Zoro was also polite, and immediately performed the first form of Wuji Slash. The light and shadow flickered in the center of the battlefield, and Zoro's figure changed around, as if a weakened version of teleportation had started. This is a group attack, combined with dexterous steps, it can pass through thousands of flowers and launch a fatal attack on all living organisms around. Now that Zoro has mastered the 6 styles of shaving, the 3 swords and wolf mie are becoming more and more proficient. For miscellaneous fish, the 3 swords and wolf extermination can often have a miraculous effect 14, but when facing the strong, this trick is not so obvious. The reason why Zoro cast the wolf is more of a test and a closer distance. 3 swords style. Tiger hunting. Immediately afterwards, Zoro raised the 2 knives up and carried them behind his back, taking advantage of the moment he was close to the eagle eye. He quickly made a move and slashed away. Hawkeye covered the branch with armed color, stretched out his hand to block lightly, and easily stopped the blow that was enough to cut through steel. 3 swords style demon slash. Seeing this, Zoro's pupils shrank, and he immediately changed his hands and crossed his hands, as if trying to pinch off the enemy's waist, and the 3rd knife blocked the gap where Hawkeye could dodge. It's just such an exquisite sword move, but Hawkeye used a branch to directly support the intersection of the 3 knives, completely blocking Zoro's next attack. This. Zoro's face was full of disbelief. Impossible, the gap between the worlds cannot be so huge. The sword move he was proud of, but the opponent found a flaw in an instant. At this moment, Zoro's inner pride began to shatter a little bit. 3 swords tornado. Immediately afterwards, Zoro continued to perform the 4th form of Wujijan. This is a sword move that transforms the sword energy in the body into a tornado and blows the enemy away. The strong wind can even scratch the enemy. Hoo-hoo. A gust of wind blew by, but Hawkeye stood there like a pine tree without moving a single footstep. Sikong Ye looked at this battle that was not much different from the original book, and he was not disappointed. The simple 3 sword style is definitely not as good as Hawkeye, but Zoro also has 9 sword style and 1000 sword style. If you only have this strength, then I don't even have the interest to do it. Hawkeye's tone was indifferent, and this expression completely irritated Zoro. 9 Blades Ashura Mo Chianshin. Zoro directly exploded with a big move, and at the same time when the 3-headed and 6-armed Ashura mode was activated, the magic knife Thousand Blades also turned into countless fragments, and crazily rotated and cut around the eagle eye. This is a sword move that is similar to the 3 sword style tornado but more powerful. With the continuous rotation of the blade fragments, a powerful tornado is set off, completely enveloping Hawkeye. If Hawkeye wants to dodge, it's actually not a problem at all. But it was clear that Hawkeye didn't intend to move his footsteps. It's an unbelievably famous sword, but even if it's broken into thousands of pieces, it's almost as threatening to me as a single sword. Ding dang 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 dang. Cho-cho-choo. There was no sound of the sword piercing the flesh, but the sound of gold and iron clanging. In the distance, Sikong Ye turned on Sharingan, and he could clearly see Hawkeye's arm waving wildly, forming an invisible barrier around his body, preventing the chance of the magic knife Chinblade to get close. So fast hand speed. The rest of the crew found that their naked eyes couldn't keep up with Hawkeye's speed of swinging the sword, and they could barely see an afterimage. Hateful. After seeing the real gap, Zoro stopped attacking, feeling unwilling, but he no longer had any more powerful sword moves than Mo Qianshan. The rest of the tricks are almost at the same level as Mo Qianshan. Is Qian Donkey at the end of his skills? Hawkeye shook the branch and said again. In that case, then I'm going to attack, let's make a quick decision. Hawkeye waved his hand casually, and a 10-meter wide sword energy flew towards Zoro. The ground cracked and smoke billowed. Zoro did not dodge or evade the sword energy, and tried to resist with his left hand across his chest. The magic knife with thousands of blades can only attack but not defend, and the Tegu is ever-changing, so it naturally becomes the best defensive weapon. Even if Zoro has not yet mastered the armed color, there is no need to worry about the damage of the weapon like the original challenge Hawkeye. Boom! Everyone only heard a bang, and Zoro flew upside down like a kite with broken strings for tens of hundreds of meters. Immediately, it hit the ground hard, rebounded 4 or 5 times like hitting water, and then barely stopped, with scars all over his body. The ever-changing Teigu was unscathed, and the 1,000 blades of the magic knife shattered all over the place. You are very good, and you are still alive with 100% of my strength. I, Mahawk, would like to call you the strongest swordsman among your peers. Hawkeye didn't hesitate to praise him, but the precise style in his words was particularly harsh to Zoro's ears. Even Kuina is a bit dissatisfied. What does it mean to be the strongest in swordsmanship among peers? She wins every fight with Zoro. Just the next moment, Kuina remembered that Zoro was 2 years younger than her, and she didn't make a sound to clarify or correct anything. Ahem. Zoro coughed up a mouthful of blood, staggered to his feet, and the fragments of the blade returned one after another, reorganizing into the magic sword Thousand Blades. Why, young man, do you still want to compete with me? Hawkeye asked coldly. It is admirable to be unafraid of powerful enemies, but sometimes people have to be a little self-aware. Hawkeye never waits for people who don't know the good and the bad. Straightening his body, Zoro didn't respond. He is very aware of his injuries at the moment. The skin has been scratched extensively, his internal organs have been severely injured, and his left hand has been severely fractured. Being able to stand up is already the limit. The injury was comparable to the last time he fought Red Bull on the floating sky island. Last time he won the final victory, but this time even with his seriously injured body, he still couldn't see any chance of winning. But he was not reconciled to letting him admit defeat. He wanted to continue fighting Hawkeye with his last breath. This is the dream he was chasing. How could he fall easily because of this injury? If he didn't even have the determination to stand up and fight another 300 rounds, wouldn't his dream seem too cheap? As long as I have breath, I will never admit defeat. Zoro gasped for breath, but he dragged on for 30 seconds to finish his short words. When the crew saw this, they couldn't bear it. Zoro, it's better to admit defeat. It's okay to lose this time. Next time, I will challenge Hawkeye and go all out to win back. Green algae head, you don't want to die. Failure is the mother of success. If you lose, you can pick up a son for nothing. Is that a decent thing for you to say? Zoro's a boy? Senior Zoro, you should stop, there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. Everyone began to comfort, and even Usopp was ready to rush to save people. It's just that Luffy firmly stopped Usopp, and said with a serious face, "This is Zoro's battle, and no one can interfere." Luffy Hockey's voice resounded throughout Whiskey Hill Harbor. Immediately afterwards, a stream of Conqueror's Haki gushed out from within, and 040 stunned a series of crew members including Usopp, Kabi, and Bartolomeo who wanted to lend a helping hand to rescue Zoro. All the crew members were frightened by this momentum, and they all fell silent. Seeing this, Sikong Ye grinned, and Luffy was still the same. Although he is only 7 years old, he has learned a lot from the red-haired Shanks. Seeing this, Kaya also extinguished the idea of going forward to treat Zoro. Plop. However, just when everyone thought that no one would stop Zoro from continuing to fight, Zoro fell to the ground. Appears to be in a coma. Good guy, Luffy, you are really a little expert in finishing the knife. Just now Zoro could somehow gather the strength to launch a move, but now he was directly stunned by Luffy's Conquerors. Luffy's Conquerors is not strong, but Zoro has reached the limit, and the spirit is shocked and fell into a coma instantly. All of a sudden, everyone turned their heads and stared at Luffy. They suspect that Luffy did this on purpose to step Zoro down. Huh? Why are you looking at me like that? And Zoro, why are you fainted? Get up and beat that uncle with the branch. Luffy didn't realize it, and just cheered Zoro up. It seems that this discussion is over. Before Hawkeye finished speaking, Zoro stood up again, with a hideous face, especially when he looked at Luffy as if he wanted to cut him into pieces. He was obviously at the end of his battle, but Luffy also launched a sneak attack. He also happens to sneak attack on the allies. If he didn't know Luffy's idiot attributes, Zoro would really suspect that this guy did it on purpose. But fortunately, at that moment just now, he had mastered a new ability, resisting the mental impact of Conqueror's Haki. I've just mastered a new ability, let's use this trick to decide the outcome. After saying that, Zoro's eyes flashed brightly, and he shouted sharply as if his whole body was shining. Scatter, Senbonzakura. Chapter 194. As long as you don't call out the name of the move, the big move is flat cut. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. With Zoro's roar, Senbonzakura's blades suddenly disintegrated into countless invisible thin blades, scattered around Zoro and Hawkeye. Due to the illumination of the light, the pieces are made to resemble flying sakura flowers. What a beautiful sakura flower rain! All the girls were amazed. Even Usopp, Kirby and other boys were dumbfounded. Huh? It's a blade. Sabo quickly noticed the abnormality. Hawkeye and Sikong Ye didn't speak. Hawkeye had penetrated the essence of these petals as early as the moment Zoro released Senbonzakura. As for Sikong Ye, he knew about it a long time ago, so he wasn't too surprised. However, Sikong Ye was very surprised that Zoro could perform Shikai. He thought it would be at least a few months before Zoro could master Senbonzakura Shikai. Could it be because of Luffy's Conqueror's Haki just now? Sikong Ye propped his chin with one hand, lost in thought. Shinigami are known to be characterized not only by their mastery of Zanpakutō, but also their proficiency in Ryotsu, which closely resembles Conqueror's Haki. Maybe, just when Zoro's willpower was extremely high, Luffy's Conqueror's impact broke Zoro's Ryotsu barrier. This possibility is extremely small, but not impossible. I didn't expect that your three knives have their own characteristics. It's good, but a real swordsman doesn't need these fancy things. Hawkeye held the branch covered in armed colors with both hands, raised it above his head, and the next moment, all the sword energy in his body was poured into it. The wind was strong and the dust was flying. Obviously, this is a big move. I don't know what school Hawkeye came from, and the zoom-in move never calls the name of the move. As long as I don't speak, I can use my big move as a flat attack. Seeing this, Sikong Ye pulled the crew to retreat for a further distance. Shish. Eee. In just a split second, Zoro manipulated countless petals to attack Hawkeye. This is countless times more than the fragments of the Magic Knife Thousand Blades. Although it is extremely difficult to control, Zoro still tries his best to control the petals to cover every part of the eagle eye. It can be said that it has achieved a 360-degree all-round attack without dead ends. On the opposite side of Zoro, the eagle-eyed sword energy was almost accumulated and immediately slashed towards Zoro. Thorn. The seemingly slow sword energy came to Zoro in the blink of an eye, and the latter didn't have any time to react and dodge. The sword energy streaked across Zoro's body, and he was cut in half from the shoulder down. Hawkeye gave up his defense, and his clothes were damaged. Even the body covered in the armed color suffered from hundreds of extremely fine scratches that were almost invisible to the naked eye. Click. The most unbelievable thing is that the branch in Hawkeye's hand broke. As the referee, I declare Zoro the winner of this match. Seeing this, Sikong Ye shouted, hugged Kaya and rushed to Zoro for treatment. At this time, Zoro was in a panic. His body was cut in half by Hawkeye. Fortunately, only the right chest was cut open, the heart in the left chest was still intact, and the brain and neck were not injured. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that this kind of injury is already reserved by Hawkeye. If not, what awaits Zoro is a head cut in half, or a heart cut into pieces by a knife. The reason why Zoro is still alive now is that when Sikong Ye transferred the venom into Zoro's body a long time ago, he secretly left a small part to protect his life. Such backhands exist in every crew member. The Venom Avatar has a weak self-healing ability, and gave Zoro a heart massage at the first time, and then let out a sigh of relief. Coupled with Kaya's horse charm, even if Zoro steps into the gate of hell with half his foot and half his body, Sikong Ye can guarantee to pull him back. Sikong Ye stuffed the internal organs into Zoro's stomach, and Kaya kept casting horse charms to heal the wound. In just 5 minutes, the two pieces of Zoro combined into one. Immediately afterwards, Kaya continued to treat Zoro's internal organs. After ensuring that the heart could act autonomously without supervision, it began to treat the bones, muscles and skin. It took more than 30 minutes for a course of treatment to be completely completed. However, due to the serious injury, Zoro, who has recovered from his injuries, is extremely weak and needs to rest for a period of time to fully recover. At this moment, Zoro regained some energy and slowly sat up with Usopp's support, but he still seemed weak. I lost. He had been losing to Kuina before, and now there is one more person who can beat him, and this battle made him experience a gap like a gap. As for Hawkeye's claim that he would win as long as he cut off the branches, Zoro would never accept it no matter how shameless he was. It's just that Zoro didn't want to accept it, but Sikong Ye had already forcibly planted the title of defeating Hawkeye on his head. Zoro looked at Hawkeye, with a dazzling light in his eyes. One day, I will definitely defeat you with dignity. Then you have to hurry up. If my strength declines when I get older, you probably won't like to challenge me like that. Hawkeye's expression remained indifferent. He had been silent before, quietly watching Kaya's treatment of Zoro from the sidelines. The reason why he hit hard just now, but didn't completely kill Zoro, was to see the healing ability of Kaya, the god of medicine who was widely circulated in the news. For this reason, he injected sword energy that exceeded the branch's bearing capacity, causing the branch to break, but he did not regret doing so. It's a pity. My teacher has gone west now, otherwise I can live for another 10 years with Kaya's treatment. A flash of loneliness suddenly appeared on Hawkeye's face. This scene happened to be captured by Sikong Ye, so he approached Hawkeye and asked, "What's the matter? Is it hard to lose a game?" "You've been thinking about it for a long time. I have lost countless battles in my life. I don't care about these victories and fame for a long time. It's that young man with the green hat who cares too much about winning or losing, but doesn't measure whether his own strength is worthy of his ambition. He can easily go astray and go mad." Hawkeye is still as calm as water. It seems that the momentary victory or defeat is meaningless to him. What he pursues is the scenery above the pinnacle of swordsmanship. Hearing this, Sikong Ye had to admire Hawkeye's heart. In comparison, Yuanlong's heart really seemed a little immature. Zoro is only 9 years old after all. It's normal for him to be young and frivolous. After he has experienced more battles, his mentality will be corrected. Sikong Ye explained. No smoking. At this time, Sanji came over to greet Hawkeye. Senior Hawkeye's knife was really beautiful. Hawkeye shook his head. As a good man who never smoked, drank or gambled, he resolutely rejected the off-brand cigarettes that Sanji handed over. Yellow-haired boy, do you have enmity with that green hat boy? Don't call me Wangmao, I'm Sanji. That green algae head really needs to be beaten, but unfortunately my current strength is too weak, otherwise I will kick that guy away sooner or later. Sanji said viciously. Influenced by the butterfly Sikong Ye, the two evenly matched in the original book have now become one-sided. In addition, these two people still dislike each other as in the original book. Naturally there are many fights, but every time it is Sanji who suffers. It is precisely because of this that Sanji devoted more time to training during this period, and of course he did not lag behind in cooking skills. It's just that compared with the original work, Sanji is more based on his own strength. Senior Hawkeye, when will our battle start? Kuina couldn't wait to trot to Sikong Ye and asked Hawkeye. You can do it at any time. Hawkeye walked slowly to the shore, boarded the coffin boat, randomly pulled out a branch from the pile, and then returned to the original place. His physical strength was barely exhausted, more than enough to deal with the little girl. Seeing that Hawkeye was getting ready, Kuina pulled away and stood 100 meters away. This is the distance between Zoro and Hawkeye before the battle. Come on. Sikong Ye walked to Kuina and patted Kuina's shoulder lightly, and a wisp of imperceptible black substance penetrated into his body. Just in case, he transferred all the venom into Kuina's body, and if his life was in danger, he would completely wrap Kuina. This move was very subtle, due to the angle and speed. The two duelists Gu, Good, Ina and Hawkeye didn't notice it. Sikong Ye's move is not cheating, it's just adding a layer of insurance to Kuina. When the onlookers got a sufficient distance, Kuina instantly pulled out the sword claw of the Oath of Victory behind her back. Hawkeye clearly noticed Kuina's movement of drawing his sword, but he didn't see the sword, and was subconsciously startled. Immediately, the eagle eye opened a sense of knowledge, and could vaguely perceive the outline of a sword. The Wind King's ward can place a barrier around the sword of Oath of Victory, making it invisible, but it won't bother observation Haki. Of course, Kuina has only developed the Wind King barrier to 30% at present, and if it continues to develop, it may not even be able to perceive the color of knowledge. Good knife. It's another peerless good knife, 3 points better than the Green Hat Boy's knife. Now I can be sure that your captain has been to the sword mound of the legendary Senior Dugu. Hawkeye firmly said that the 4 knives currently displayed by the Ziwei pirates are all things Hawkeye has never heard or seen. Especially the sword of vowed victory, the momentum from the blade gave him an ancient and vicissitudes of life. It must be a supreme sharp knife that has been buried for hundreds or even thousands of years. No, the sword of victory is even stronger than the supreme sword. Chapter 195 The ultimate move is Curry Stick. The holy light shines in the world again. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. No wonder East Blue's reports always say that the Ziwei pirates have magical weapons, and seeing them now, they really live up to their reputation. If you think about it, only ancient weapon can surpass this sword. Hawkeye couldn't help but sigh with emotion. If it was the past, he would definitely try every means to snatch the sword of the vowed victory. After all, the famous sword has always been for the capable. However, after seeing the sword state described by Senior Dugu, he understood. No matter how good a sword is, it is a foreign object after all. Only by reaching the 2 realms that Senior Dugu said, all plants, trees, bamboo and stones can be swords and no sword is better than having a sword. Can one touch the peak of swordsmanship above 10,000 people? Of course, Hawkeye will not unilaterally think that there is no future for Zoro and Kuina to use famous swords. After all, the 2 little guys have not yet reached the realm of great swordsmen, so it is natural to use more powerful famous swords. Furthermore, the news of Dugu Sword Realm originally came from Sikong Ye, so there is no need for him to bother about Zoro and Kuina's sword path. Senior Eagle Eye, I know that my strength is definitely far inferior to yours, but if I meet you but don't compete with you, I will never forgive myself anyway. Next, I will unleash my strongest blow, please teach me Senior Eagle Eye. Kuina obviously knows more about etiquette than Zoro's idiot. Every word and deed is very decent. After the exchange before the battle, Kuina slowly closed her eyes. At the same time, the Wind King's enchantment was lifted, and the Sword of Vowed Victory was revealed. Kuina held the hilt of the sword tightly with both hands, and the power of the whole body poured into both wrists, and gradually flowed into the Sword of Vowed Victory from both wrists. When it was held high, it had already turned into a golden sword. At this moment, the light is gathering. As if illuminating this holy sword is his highest task, the brilliance is infinitely condensed and merged into a dazzling beam of light. Under the intense, clear and pure radiance, everyone was speechless. Nothing but shock. Some people who have seen the holy light in East Blue once again recalled the endless brilliance that enveloped the entire East Blue. Kuina holds up the sword of the Oath of Victory, is sincerely proud of holding up this will, and is righteous in carrying out this belief, singing with her voice. Gather the breath of the stars in the sky, the rush of brilliant life. At this moment, the light is flowing, at this moment, the light is roaring. Endless light sources gushed out from the sword of the Vowed Victory sword, soaring straight into the sky, breaking through the clouds, making the whole day even more dazzling. At this moment, in the paradise in the first half of the Grand Line, everyone noticed this ray of light that shot straight into the sky. What kind of light is this? It almost blinded my titanium alloy dog eyes. Only Kizaru Admiral can unleash light-type attacks. Kizaru Admiral must be cleaning up pirates somewhere. I remember that something similar happened to East Blue not long ago. Could it be that the legendary magic weapon has reappeared? Because it is daytime, although the light is not as dazzling as at night, more people have noticed and marveled. Of course, there are those who keep guessing about the source of the light. In the waters near Alabasta, a blond old man wearing glasses surfaced and muttered to himself while looking at the soaring golden light in the distance. Oh, so those little guys are over there. Marco and Teach, who were chasing and fleeing, have come to the Drum Kingdom at this moment. When they saw the beam of light, they both stopped and looked at the big, golden light in the distance. This light beam. Xiao Yi and the others have encountered any trouble? Thieves, ha ha ha. It seems that East Blue's report is not exaggerated. Seeing 19 is indeed worthy of the name of Kagura. The Whitebeard pirates who had just left the Devil's Triangle waters were all amazed when they saw the light of the sword that promised victory in the distance. Cool la la la. Ziwei and his team really make me look forward to it. Naval Headquarters Marineford, all Marines noticed the golden light covering half of the sky, and most general officers were immediately called to a meeting by Sengoku. At the port of Whiskey Hill, the shock in Hawkeye's heart was the most violent. The dazzling light blinded the eagle's eyes, but when he faced the sword of vowed victory, he could feel a boundless aura of righteousness sweeping towards him like a tsunami. He even faintly felt the vicissitudes of life and vigorous kingly power from Kuina's sword intent. Good sword intent, Hawkeye praised, holding the branch high above his head, and covering it with a layer of dark and deep-armed color. Hawkeye was not willing to interrupt such a powerful and unheard of sword move, but directly made a defensive move. All the people in the distance closed their eyes, unable to see clearly the situation on the battlefield. Sikong Ye could barely see clearly with the help of Sharingan and white eyes. As that conquerors, feeling the might of the king looming towards him, Sikong Ye was slightly surprised, opened the attribute panel to check, and Kuina really awakened the rare conquerors among millions of people. I just don't know whether Kuina awakened by herself or by the power of the King of Knights. At this time, Kuina suddenly opened her eyes, her short blue hair fluttered in the wind, and her appearance gradually changed into that of a wind elf. Obviously, Kuina integrated the ability of the wind spirit fruit into the sword move. As the light converged to the limit, Kuina shouted. Next, X-Curry Stick. As soon as the words fell, the sword of the Oath of Victory, wrapped in a golden light that shot straight into the sky, aimed straight at the direction where Hawkeye was. When the light fell, it instantly split the ground and set off a violent wind. For a while, the entire battlefield was shrouded in smoke and light. Clang! Hawkeye only used 20% of his strength to catch this move firmly. The moves are quite good, but it's a pity that the strength is still far behind. Hawkeye still commented with ease at this time. Just the next moment, something happened that Hawkeye couldn't believe. The golden light penetrated the branch and chopped directly at him. At this time, it was obviously too late to dodge, and Hawkeye had no choice but to cover his whole body with armed colors to resist the golden light. It's just a pity that I had to find a custom-made costume on my body. Thorn. Hawkeye's clothes were torn with a long and narrow opening, and there was also an extremely fine bloodstain on his chest. This is not over yet. When the sword of vowed victory locks onto the target, it will explode directly, forming a small mushroom cloud. Rumbling. Rumbling. The explosion lasted for a full 30 seconds, and the entire Whiskey Hill port was blown beyond recognition. The Emperor Star, the coffin boat, and other ships were all thrown hundreds of meters away by the airwaves. When the battlefield gradually fell silent, no one dared to take a breath. Click. The slight sound of a branch breaking was especially clear at this moment. Hawkeye, who was covered in dust and looked extremely embarrassed, was speechless for a long time, but he was complaining crazily in his heart. What kind of physical attack are you doing? It's clearly a magic attack. Good guy, really good guy. I have traveled all over the years, except for the armed color cover and the release of sword energy. I have never seen anyone use a knife to perform a magical attack. And even if it is a magic attack, since the armed color can attack Logia's elementalization, it should also be able to resist Kuina's attack in theory. But after resisting for a moment, the golden light penetrated his branches. This reminds Hawkeye of One Piece Luogia. Luogia's divine avoidance can ignore the opponent's block and directly hit the opponent, and Kuina's sword moves are very similar to divine avoidance. How did you pierce my branch covered in armed color? Kuina gasped and explained. I didn't penetrate your branch, but your branch cut through my lightsaber. Huh? Hawkeye was stunned, and then suddenly recalled that there was indeed a gap in the lightsaber. In other words, he cut a gap with the lightsaber, and the branch just got stuck in the gap, and he was naturally hit by the lightsaber. What else could Hawkeye say? The only thing to blame is that the sword of the Oath of Victory is not only long enough, but also wide enough that it can still be used after being cut by him. Buried? Hawkeye's praise this time lacked the breath of Versailles, and it sounded more sincere. Senior Eagle Eye, may I ask if you have Hei Dao Ya with you? The famous sword she pursued was useless in front of the real great swordsman, which broke her love for famous swords for many years. That's right, for me, famous swords will only affect my swordsmanship. Tashigi seemed to be battered by 5 thunderbolts, his whole head became a paste, and he was completely stunned. Sword of promised victory. I will bury it. Don't think about it too much. The senior Yinyan's realm is there. It's normal to abandon the sword. You don't have the qualifications to abandon the sword to practice. Sikong Ye explained lightly from the side. Located next to Sikong Ye, Tashigi has never seen Hawkeye using the Black Knife Knight, so he couldn't help asking. No problem. Sikong Ye nodded. Without changing clothes, Hawkeye came to Sikong Ye and said, I have completed the agreement, it's time for you to fulfill the deal. Seeing this, Hawkeye didn't bother to continue to argue. As he said before, he didn't care about the momentary victory or defeat at all. Kuina, however, shook her head. I have already used the strongest move, and I have absolutely no energy left, but Senior Eagle Eye, you are still able to handle it with ease at this moment, so I lost. Good name, you win. What's the name of your knife? This was the first time Hawkeye asked the name of the knife. Could it be that her pursuit of famous knives was just a joke in the end? Chapter 196 continued to flicker. Talk on the top of Whiskey Mountain. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. After some comfort from Sikong Ye, Tashigi finally settled his mind. But I still regret that I didn't see Hideaway with my own eyes. Then Sikong Ye told the crew to stay in the port honestly, while he went to the top of the highest mountain of Whiskey Hill with eagle eyes. Zoro, Kuina and Tashigi wanted to sit in, but Sikong Ye refused. He originally planned to fool Hawkeye with some jokes from his previous life. How could he make his own crew become lame by fooling him? Half an hour later, Sikong Ye and Hawkeye arrived at the top of the mountain leisurely. The top of the mountain is bare, only a few boulders stand on the top of the mountain, which looks monotonous but has a special artistic conception. Looking at most of Whiskey Hill and the surrounding sea area, Sikong Ye suddenly felt a heroic and carefree feeling. It will be the top of the mountain, and you can see all the mountains, small. It's simply the perfect sanctuary. Sikong Ye took out 2 futons from the system space, handed one to Hawkeye, and he sat cross-legged on the futons first. Seeing this, Hawkeye imitated and sat down, facing Sikong Ye. I'm curious, why don't you let your crew listen in? Dao can be Dao, very Dao. Name can be named, very famous. Insufficient realm, listening to it will affect their path of swordsmanship instead. Sikong Ye pretended to stroke the beard that didn't exist at all, and drew the text to improve his style and increase Hawkeye's confidence in the following. Actually, sword repair is the same as body repair, it is from the outside to the inside. That is to master a skill, and use this skill to continuously integrate with the body, spirit, and soul. Practicing the way of swordsmanship is actually the integration of people, swords, and moves. Sikong Ye brought out some of the kendo experience in those fantasy novels in his previous life, which instantly aroused Hawkeye's interest. The running in of people, swords and strokes. Hawkeye pondered this sentence over and over again, showing his face and frowning from time to time, obviously trying to comprehend the inner meaning of this sentence based on his own experience. It's just that there seems to be a great truth in such simple words, but he just didn't understand anything valuable from it. Before Senior Dugu's sword realm was spread, the way of swordsmanship was divided into 4 realms: swordsman, 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 and great swordsman. And when the Dugu sword realm was handed down, there were 2 more realms, the swordmaster and the sword god. If you combine sword cultivation with physical cultivation, you can see that in fact, there are only 4 realms that are really important, namely, the art of mind and heart. Sikong Ye spoke eloquently. The so-called state of art is swordsmanship. This state focuses on mastering the basic use of swords, and constantly learning derivative and advanced swordsmanship. Only when one reaches great success can the state of art be considered complete. The realms of swordsman and swordsman both correspond to the realm of art. The realm of intent is to use moves to the point of perfection and awaken sword intent from knowledge and battles. Both swordsman and great swordsman can be unified into the realm of will. As for the realm of the heart, it no longer focuses on swordsmanship and famous knives, but instead focuses on developing sword intent, integrating sword intent into the original heart through comprehension, and awakening one's own sword heart. Juggernaut is the mirror corresponding to the heart. The final realm of Tao seems to be through constantly tempering one's own sword heart, thus inspiring one's own way of swordsmanship. Sword God corresponds to the realm of Tao. After Sikong Ye's in-depth explanation of Shuyi Zindao, Eagle Eye has a deeper understanding of Dugu sword realm and Shuyi Zindao. At the same time, he also understood why he was unable to enter the realm of the sword master for a long time, because he did not find the right way to develop a sword heart. How should I cultivate Jianshin? After hearing this, Hawkeye completely let go of the arrogance in his heart. I no longer refer to myself as I. Sikong Ye didn't answer directly, but asked a question instead. Let me ask you, what is a transparent sword called? Sword of Promised Victory. Hawkeye gave the answer without hesitation, and Kuina's sworn sword of victory left a deep impression on him, so naturally he will not forget it. But Sikong Ye shook his head. Wrong, it's because you can't see the sword. Hawkeye. Boy, are you kidding me? Can't see what a sword is? Is that also a sword? Are you trying to fool me with a child's brain teaser? Swordsmanship can be learned even if it is visible. Sword intent can be awakened by fighting if it is invisible. But sword heart can only be activated through the sword intent integrated into the heart. As for the way of swordsmanship, it is even more illusory. Sikong Ye's words awakened the dreamer, and immediately made Hawkeye stand up. Those eagle-like sharp eyes were full of enlightenment. The heart of the sword is invisible, only the sword intent can be integrated into the heart to achieve great success. At this moment, Hawkeye realized, but the next moment, Hawkeye was dumbfounded again. Because he didn't know what his sword intent was. So Hawkeye asked Sikong Ye again, and what he got was another question from Sikong Ye. Why did you learn to sword? Forget. Hawkeye really forgot, even most swordsmen forgot. Maybe it's because he just likes swordsmanship, or maybe he wants to learn a skill to avoid being bullied, but after decades of practicing and fighting, Hawkeye can't remember why he learned swordsmanship. The only thing he still remembers is that kendo has become an inseparable part of his life. You don't learn so many weapons in the sea, but you learn to sword. You don't practice sword fighting. Cough cough, I made a mistake. Sikong Ye coughed dryly, trying to resolve the previous embarrassment, and then said. Since you forgot why you learned swordsmanship, let me change the question. The blade of the sword's heart can be used for killing or protecting. Killing and protecting are just a matter of thought. I don't know whether you enter the sword by killing or protect. Hearing this question, Hawkeye fell silent. To kill or to protect? This is a problem. Seeing that Hawkeye was still struggling, Sikong Ye continued to ask. Aside from your original intention, why are you now giving up your sword and wielding wood? I want to ascend to the realm of the sword god, that Senior Dugu said. This time, Hawkeye answered decisively. If you want to reach the top, you must compete with other great swordsmen. Rounding it up, what Hawkeye chose was the way of killing. In this regard, Sikong Ye is not surprised. After all, this is a common phenomenon in the world of One Piece. In this way, your sword intent is inclined to the way of killing. As for the finer division, you need to understand it yourself. The reason for letting Hawkeye realize it by himself is because Sikong Ye himself doesn't know, so he can only make up a few words to prevaricate. Asking for flowers. About the realm of Tao. Don't ask me about this. Although I entered Senior Dugu's sword tomb by mistake and gained some knowledge, I am still a layman. In addition, you have not yet entered the mirror of your heart. It is useless to talk too much. Sikong Ye waved his hands again and again. He said all the content that could be fooled. Even if Hawkeye asked him again, he couldn't squeeze out more dry things. I am very grateful. This question has benefited me a lot. In return, I, Mahawk, can help your Ziwei pirates for free. Even if it is to assassinate the 5 elders, I will not refuse. Hawkeye got up and slightly cupped his hands at Konye. Although Sikong Ye was happy in his heart, he waved his hand and refused on the surface. This is the content of our previous transaction, and you don't owe me anything. I know, but you can also fool me with some content that is not nutritious, but in fact you are telling me all the most precious swordsmanship experience. The value of these experiences is enough to be worth one shot. By the way, I got an important piece of information from the red hair, and I will give it to you. Hawkeye seemed to have thought of something, and immediately added. Point 0. What information? One Piece's deputy, Pluton Rayleigh, has a close relationship with Octopus Hachi. You killed Hachi. Rayleigh has already learned about it, and is on his way here. When hearing the first half of the news, Sikong Ye was still a little disappointed. After all, he knew about the relationship between Rayleigh and Xiao Ba in his previous life. However, when he heard Hawkeye say that Rayleigh was on his way, he immediately jumped up. I'll go. The old man can't be so narrow-minded, can he? Sikong Ye thought that Rayleigh would trip him up when he arrived at the Saboti archipelago, but he didn't expect this guy to chase after him directly. At that rate, it won't be long before he meets Rayleigh. Do you need help? No need for now, I can handle that old guy. Sikong Ye is not overly worried. You must know that there are not only Shanks' successors on board the Emperor Star, but also Luo Jia's own son. I believe that no matter how angry Rayleigh is, he will give his captain a thin face. With Shanks' face fruit ability, the possibility of Rayleigh wielding a butcher knife is less than 50%. After the discussion, Sikong Ye returned near the port with Hawkeye. The original port has been blown up, and the Emperor Star and the coffin boat are now moored on a piece of grass a little far from the port. Seeing Sikong Ye's return, all the crew members stepped forward to say hello. Little ones, to celebrate our arrival at Whiskey Hill, we will have a banquet tonight, Sikong Ye said after greeting the crew. Oye! It's a party. Luffy was the most excited among the partners, and the rest cheered too. Sanji threw the cigarette butt on the ground and stepped on it twice, rolled up his sleeves. Next, I will let you taste the delicacy of Chef Sanji. On the one hand, the food you make is far from a gourmet machine, don't pollute our taste buds, okay? Nami kicked Sanji flying. Sikong Ye also said unhappily, Sanji, you should learn more from Xiaomei. I will never eat a bite of your food until I reach Xiaomei's craftsmanship. Sanji, who was kicked away, silently shed tears of humiliation. He's actually no better than a machine, corpse. Chapter 197 Kickoff. King Teach seeks to capture ancient weapon Pluton. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. After the banquet, Hawkeye left Whiskey Hill in the coffin boat. The Ziwei pirates headed for the next destination after fully storing their magnetic force. The Emperor Star continued to move forward on the sea, and everyone in the Ziwei pirates once again devoted themselves to a single boring training. The long-term voyage has made Sikong Ye develop the habit of taking a nap. It was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and Sikong Ye was lying in his own single-bedroom cabin after lunch, preparing to take a nap. Just at this time, I received good news from Venom. Master, South Blue has been opened, and now the internet has been opened all over the world, and the total number of internet users has reached 430 million. So fast! Sikong Ye, who had just fallen asleep, sat up straight suddenly, and his whole body suddenly became more awake. Yes, master, besides that, the online banking app and Toutiao app that you asked me to develop before have been completed, but the online banking app has not opened the recharge and withdrawal service yet. The Toutiao app, the two software developed by Venom, has already been tested in 4Cs. However, the online banking app lacks the assistance of the Tegu dimensional square, and cannot recharge and withdraw cash, so it has not yet been released. That is to say, as long as the development of the dimensional phalanx reaches the standard of 767, I can start the internet empire of One Piece world? Yes, master. If I remember correctly, today should be the last day of refining the dimensional phalanx. As long as the dimensional phalanx is released, spiritual wisdom will be born, and then you can practice independently. Sikong Ye was a little surprised, and then lay back down again, preparing to take a nice nap. Master, Hai Bian King, has been updated, do you need to check it out? You don't need to read it, just report the general plot. Sikong Ye was lying on the pillow, sleepiness gradually came to his mind. Good master, in order to ensure the continuity of the two comics, I added a mysterious person at the end of the Fatty Sea King comic. The mysterious person is a prophet who has eaten the fruit of foresight and can draw what will happen in the future. However, once the future is seen, the future line will be rewritten invisibly. And, King of Kick-Ass, is the second Teach-related cartoon drawn by the mysterious man after realizing the future changes. Sikong Ye fell asleep after listening to it like listening to a bedtime story. After the Venom realized that the owner was asleep, the voice gradually became quieter, and at the end it directly interrupted the report so as not to disturb the owner's sleep. East Blue. At this moment, 2 warships are entering the calm belt, preparing to return to the Grand Line. Stop the ship, but here, a vicissitudes of life and deep voice resounded through the 2 warships, and all the navigators heard the words and immediately drew the sails and controlled the warships to stop. Mr. Garp, what else do you want? Aokiji came to the Garp warship and found that Mr. Garp was standing quietly at the bow without any movement, so he couldn't help asking. A long time ago, he and Mr. Garp had received orders from Marshal Sengoku to return to the Grand Line immediately. It's just that Colonel Mouse's scandal completely angered Garp, and immediately dismissed Colonel Mouse and other Marines for investigation. Afterwards, they successively went to various Marine branches to conduct thorough investigations, uncovered many corrupt criminals, and launched a major cleansing. The temporary prison on the 2 warships they were in was already full. It is precisely because of this that they have not left East Blue until now. As soon as he was about to enter the calm belt, Garp ordered to stop the ship again, which made Aokiji's little heart rise in his throat. The manga on the forum has been updated, I plan to read it before leaving. Garp simply said a word and threw himself into the comic. You know, this is a comic with certain predictive significance, how could Garp miss it? As Marine, he definitely doesn't read manga because it looks good. Absolutely not, Mr. Garp, reading comics should not delay the sailing of the warship? Aokiji was puzzled. What do you know? The Grand Line is not connected to the internet at the moment, which means that the network will be interrupted if you leave East Blue. Garp glanced at Aokiji, as if looking at an illiterate. Instead of talking nonsense with Aokiji, Garp threw himself into the new manga. Kick it boo, after watching the Easter egg at the end of King of the Sea. At the beginning of the new comic, Teach, Marco, Thatch, and Namuel are sitting on the deck of the pirate ship and reading the comic. The name of the comic is Fat Sea King. After the four of them watched it, although they suspected that it was intentional sowing dissension, the seeds of suspicion had already been planted. Later, Teach was imprisoned by Marco and others because of his laughter. In order to escape, Teach took advantage of Naur's serious injury and Marco's departure from the ship, and attacked Saki and Naur who were staying behind. The brother died tragically, and Marco was furious, chasing and killing Tichin frantically. But Teach fled to an unnamed island and picked up slippery fruit by accident. In order to avoid Marco's pursuit, Teach had to give up the dark fruit and eat the slippery fruit to change his body shape. After slippery fruit entered his stomach, all the fat on Teach's body slipped off, and his figure was slim, showing a hint of a handsome man. The face has also lost a lot of weight, making it more handsome and delicate. It's a pity that the broken teeth affected the overall beauty. It turns out that Beijing is the origin of King Hybian, which is quite appropriate. Garp muttered and continued to look. After a big change in body and appearance, Teach deliberately disguised himself as a savage, escaped Marco's pursuit, and grandiosely boarded Marco's sailboat to the Grand Line. I have to say, this Teach is really brave. Garp murmured to himself, thinking that Teach would dare to provoke the Whitebeard pirates, and he couldn't justify his lack of courage. Then Teach met the Ziwei pirates at Gemini Cape, and was spotted by Sikong Ye. After the battle between Marco and Teach, the two chased and fled. Finally arrived in Alabasta. At this moment, K-Lock, one of the Shichibukai, approached Teach, and jointly negotiated to capture Pluton, one of the ancient weapons. To this end, Clock Dar also created the Barlock Work Agency, and secretly used dancing powder in Albana, the capital of the kingdom, in an attempt to arouse conflicts between the king and the people. Just when the rebel army gathered under the capital city, the manga stopped updating, and Garp suddenly couldn't figure out how to vomit. Hybian King has only updated 3 chapters, the plot has come to an end here, and the follow-up content has not yet been updated. But just this amount of information is enough to shock Garp. Teach's next target is Pluton? And that guy Clock is eyeing Pluton? At this moment, a sense of urgency finally appeared on Garp's face. After informing Aokiji of the content of the manga, Garp ordered, "You go to Alabasta immediately to monitor K-Lock Dar. Once K-Lock Dar contacts Teach, be sure to take Teach down." "Got it." Aokiji nodded in response. There was no time for delay, so Aokiji agreed and sprinted back to the ship to unload a bike before jumping off the boat and riding his bike across the comm belt. Garp is only Vice Admiral, and it stands to reason that he cannot issue orders to Admiral. However, Aokiji is carried by Garp alone, and he does not have any rejection of Garp's order, as long as he reports to Marshal Sengoku afterwards. After reading the manga, Garp also called everyone to cross the comm belt and return to naval headquarters. Of course, he did not forget to contact Sengoku to inform his old partner of the prophecy of the new manga. Naval headquarters Marineford, Sengoku in the Marshal's office hangs up Garp's phone with a serious expression on his face. Recently, the sea is not peaceful, and the biggest problem is Teach, which even surpasses Avengers and Internet. After all, the Whitebeard pirates would not have returned to the Grand Line if Teach hadn't killed the captains of Sage and Namur. And if Whitebeard doesn't leave New World won't be as chaotic as it is now. Moreover, in the new comics, Teach and Lock Doll conspired to seize the ancient weapon Pluton, which angered the interests of celestial dragons even more. Damn Teach, I didn't expect to make so many mods. It seems that I have to add a reward to him. Sengoku took out a new phone bug from the drawer, dialed 5 elders, and reported all the things that Teach and Lock Dar, one of the Shichibukai, captured the ancient weapon Pluton. Shichibukai does not belong to the marine establishment, but an organization under the World 1.1 government. Therefore, 5 elders have to speak out how to punish Clock Dar. But Lock dared to shit on 5 elders, and it would be a ghost if 5 elders could bear it. This Teach is really against the sky, and Lock Doll is not small. Sengoku, deprive Lock of the title of Shichibukai from now on. Offer a reward of 1 billion, live or die. Sure enough, Lock Doll's behavior touched the bottom line of 5 elders, and he was directly convicted even if it hadn't happened. Like Nico Robin, he was offered a bounty of 79 million Baileys without doing anything, which can be said to be quite wrong. If 5 elders knew that those cartoons were drawn by Venom to fool people, I'm afraid they would have to die of anger on the spot. By the way, Sengoku, Teach offered me a direct reward of 2 billion. Captain Sikong Ye of Ziwei Pirates, Luffy the Devil, Kaya the Ship Doctor, Kuina the Holy Sword, and Nico Robin all offer me a reward of 100 million. Among them, Kaya, the ship's doctor, and Sanji, the cook, are only allowed to be captured alive, and the rest don't matter. Beep beep. After explaining, 5 elders hung up the phone. Chapter 198 Tool Spirit. Reprint Devil Fruit without side effects. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. HP Pavilion X 361 4 Kun'er Heiyi Baiji Bushing Dian Now 14 EK 1025 TU Yin Se D13 Dai Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Windows Sengoku felt quite helpless when he heard that 5 members of the Ziwei Pirates had been named by the 5 elders to increase their rewards. He suppressed the reward order for so long, isn't it just to give everyone in Ziwei Pirates a safer environment? But he never expected that 5 elders would intervene in this matter. Presumably it has something to do with the deaths of hundreds of pirate hunters in Whiskey Hill? Hawkeye angrily killed hundreds of pirate hunters, and after all, the impact was not good. After all, pirate hunters can be regarded as civil justice organizations in the final analysis. At that time, the Ziwei Pirates also appeared in Whiskey Hill, which happened to be the scapegoat for Wenku. 5 elders contacted him 2 days ago, asking him to finish the work for Hawkeye and blame the Ziwei Pirates. At that time, he just agreed with his mouth, but turned his head and forgot about it. Unexpectedly, within a few days, 5 elders started to urge again. This time, if he didn't update the reward order for Ziwei's group, he might really annoy 5 elders and depose him as marshal. Regarding the undercover identity of the Ziwei Pirates, Sengoku thought about it, and finally decided that it would be better to keep the 5 elders secret. After all, Kaya, like Luo, is a rare medical talent. Once the old guys from 5 elders know that Kaya is from their marine, they will be forcibly recruited to the CP organization. It's just that the ship Dr. Kaya asked for the condition of live capture only. He can understand why the chef Sanji also asked for live capture. Could it be that this Sanji still has some unknown identity? Puzzled, Sengoku didn't think about it for the time being, but handed over the draft of the revised reward order to the adjutant to print. Oh, Sikong Ye, you wish you luck, 14 inches. After the adjutant left, Sengoku felt rather complicated at the moment. As Marine's undercover agent, in the end he will be wanted by Marine without any hesitation. Treating the heroes like this filled him with a sense of guilt. However, how could Sengoku know that Sikong Ye was lying in the closet on the Emperor's Star at this time, happily taking a nap? If Sikong Ye knew that Sengoku had raised a reward for him, he would wake up laughing from a dream. Tuck tuck tuck. The sound of knocking on the door suddenly came to mind, waking up Sikong Ye, who was sleeping soundly. Sikong Ye asked, half asleep, "Who is knocking on the door?" "It's me, Tashigi. Captain, your Tegu has been refined. Do you need to renew it or extract it first?" Hearing that Tegu's refinement was completed, Sikong Ye suddenly became sober. "If you don't renew, just take it out and put it at my door." "Okay, Captain, do you need to refine other weapons?" "I won't refine it for now. You can refine your treasure first, and I will find you next time." After Sikong Ye finished speaking, he continued to squint his eyes and fell asleep on the pillow. About 10 minutes later, Sikong Ye slowly got up, put on his clothes, opened the sliding door, and saw that the Emperor's single-step phalanx had been wrapped up by Tashigi and placed at the door. Picking up the compass, tearing off the outer packaging, Sikong Ye looked at it repeatedly, and felt that the appearance of the compass was the same as before. A warm feeling. "Master." The dimensional phalanx called out immediately after sensing Sikong Ye's breath. However, because the intelligence of the dimensional square array is not too high, they always use short sentences to express their emotions when they speak. "Sure enough, you are wise, so I will call you Kojira from now on." Sikong Ye gave the dimensional phalanx a name that fits the artistic conception. Speaking of which, he hasn't given Venom a name yet, but thinking that he used to call it Venom, and it sounded very pleasing to the ear, so he didn't bother to choose another name. You can't let the handsome name of Venom be used, but call it Little Doodoo, or something like that. "Thank you, Master, for giving me the name. Kojira, you should be able to practice on your own to increase your development speed, right?" "Can. Well, from today onwards, you will work hard to cultivate, and strive to be able to carry out space transmission around the world as soon as possible." 171. After handing over the task of developing the dimensional phalanx to Kojira, Sikong Ye put the compass on the desk and left the comfortable nest. The weather was clear, and many crew members were training crazily on the deck. Even the 2 little animals, Pochi and Lakey, were not lazy. After getting acquainted with Pochi, Li Chi begged Pochi to teach moonwalk. "It wants to be a flying lion, Li K. From now on your codename will be Flying Admiral Purple Lion." Sikong Ye stepped forward to get a good substitute for Li K. "Blackbeard Podge, Purple Lion niche. Not bad, it sounds tall." Afterwards, Sikong Ye devoted himself to training. Life in the sea is very boring. Every day is either eating, drinking, sleeping or training. The 3 hours of practice in the afternoon will pass quickly. Sikong Ye, who was sweating all over, took a shower and came to the deck again, but found that most of the crew were gathered together. "Haha, I have a reward of 100 million. Just at this time, Sikong Ye just heard Luffy's loud voice, and immediately understood that a new reward order was released. Sengoku finally became a human being. "I thought he would delay until next year." Sikong Ye complained rather speechlessly. "How could this be? I seem to be offering a reward of 100 million, Kaya muttered, and anyone could hear the surprise and bewilderment in her words. When everyone heard the words, they all looked at Kaya's reward order. Many people repeated it 2 or 3 times, and it really was a reward of 100 million. Sabo interrupted suddenly. "I think it was Kaya's ability that caught Marine's attention. You see the special words, 'only for live capture,' are marked on the reward order." "Damn it, I'm only 80 million, and Kuina obviously has a reward of 100 million. At this moment, Zoro's unwilling voice came. Sanji gloated. Isn't it true that you can't beat Kuina? Curly eyebrows. Do you want to fight? I think your Kong Chong seems to be at the bottom of the pirate group, Zoro retorted. This pair of good friends who love and kill each other really don't stop for a moment, and they will crazily discredit each other whenever they find an opportunity. Why is Sanji only for live capture, like Kaya? Karina pointed out the anomaly in Sanji's bounty order. Knowing that Kaya was marked alive because of the value of its healing ability, what value can Sanji, a poor chef, have? Hearing everyone talking about Sanji, Sikong Ye on the periphery of the crowd felt terrified. In other words, the Vince Mo K family has locked Shan Hao. I think it won't be long before Vince Mo K's family will come to the door. After all the crew members had finished browsing, Sikong Ye took over the newspaper and the reward order and began to examine them in detail. Venom Sikong Ye. A reward of 100 million is offered. Holy Sword Kuina. A reward of 100 million is offered. Devil Luffy. A reward of 100 million is offered. God of Medicine hyphenation point Kaya. A reward of 100 million is offered. Devil Robin. A reward of 100 million is offered. Shadow Wing Karina. A reward of 80 million is offered. Explosion Usopp. A reward of 80 million is offered. Shura Zoro. A reward of 80 million is offered. Fire Fist Ace. A reward of 70 million is offered. Iron Rod Sabo. A reward of 70 million is offered. Thunder God Nami. A reward of 70 million is offered. Barrier Bartolomeo. A reward of 50 million is offered. Sword Domain Tashigi. A reward of 30 million is offered. Explosive Seed Kebi. A reward of 30 million is offered. Chef Sanji. There is a reward of 10 million. Due to the increase in the number of crew members, I will not repeat the capabilities and positions, otherwise the author will be suspected of injecting water. Sikong Ye browsed through it roughly. A total of 15 members of the Ziwei Pirates were offered rewards, and the total amount of rewards was as high as 1,070 million. And there are 5 people offering a reward of over 100 million, exceeding the prerequisites for completing the main task. At this moment, 2 beautiful electronic prompts sounded in Sikong Ye's mind. Ding! Achievement mission. The total reward has exceeded 1 billion and has been completed. Please choose the captain's characteristic. 500. Option 1. Slow fruit no side effects replica. Option 2. Regression fruit reprinted version without side effects. Option 3. Time fruit reprinted version without side effects. Ding! The main task, Famous East Blue, has been completed. Please choose the hull upgrade. Option 1. Amphibious warship. Option 2. A dual-purpose warship for sea and air. Option 3. Diving-type male and female twin boats. When he heard that the captain's characteristic was Devil Fruit, Sikong Ye couldn't wait to ask the system without even listening to the prompt. Why does the captain feature offer the option of Devil Fruit? Isn't that what you get when you recruit partners? Returning to the host, every captain's characteristic that appears is a product of a certain plane, and this time it happens to be drawn from the original plane. In order to compensate the host, this system deliberately screens out devil fruits related to time and eliminates side effects. After listening to the system's explanation, Sikong Ye was still a little puzzled. Didn't you say that devil fruit won't draw duplicates before? The slow fruit and regression fruit seem to have owners now, right? Back to the host, the devil fruit that has been eaten cannot be drawn in the recruitment task, but the captain's characteristic can. Otherwise, where did the host think the previous characteristic came from? Sikong Ye. Well, after such an explanation by the system, there is indeed nothing wrong, so I opened the profile panel to check the fruit ability. Slowness fruit. Make a specific gesture to emit light, and people and things hit by the light will be slowed down for half a minute. Regression fruit. It can reverse all the objects touched by Taoyuan for 12 years, and the object can be completely erased by touching it multiple times. Time fruit. Manipulate time, gain time perception, and transfer yourself or a designated object to the future timeline. Chapter 199. Choose the fruit and the battleship, the change of the Emperor Star. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. After reading the introduction of the 3 devil fruits, Sikong Ye decisively chose the time fruit. If you want to ask why, it is naturally because among the 3 fruits, the time fruit is the best. The slow fruit's gesture is a bit silly. Sikong Ye decisively ruled it out. Whether you are strong or not is a matter of a moment, and whether you are handsome or not is a matter of a lifetime. The fruit of retrogression is very good. Whether it prolongs life or makes the target disappear, it belongs to the ability of the rule level. But he has a way to get this fruit. Even the slow fruit he will get it sooner or later, but the time fruit has no trace. Even, Sikong Ye is now not sure if the time fruit is reborn. Don't look at Kazuki in the original book. He didn't escape in the fire. He seemed to be ready to die in love with his husband, but who knows whether this person who has crossed the timeline for more than 800 years will travel to future. Kazuki was not only the wife of Kazuki Oden, but also the mother of Momosuke and Kazuki Hiyori. As a mother, it is not impossible to travel to the future to see how far your child has grown. In addition, Kazuki is also very likely to travel to the future to see for himself whether Wano Kuni is restored. Either way, it's possible that Kazuki was alive at the time. Even if Kazuki is really dead, the time fruit is not so easy to get, it is better to take this opportunity to hold it in your hands. Although the original book only mentions that the time fruit can travel to the future, it is obviously impossible to only have the ability to travel to the future. Anyway, it is the extremely powerful time fruit of the power of law in various fantasy novels, and some of the most basic control and application of time must exist. Otherwise, it is not qualified to be called the fruit of time, and it should be called the fruit of time travel. After confirming the selection, the time fruit falls into the system space. Sikong Ye asked the system. This time fruit is a duplicate version without side effects. Does it mean that I can still eat a devil fruit with side effects that is not a duplicate version? System. I have never seen such a host who exploits loopholes. Go back to host, you can really eat another devil fruit. After being affirmed by the system, Sikong Ye became excited. This means, he will be the man who has 5 devil fruits in the One Piece world. Without any hesitation, he took out the time fruit and took a bite, and Sikong Ye threw the rest into the sea. This is the second time he has tasted the disgusting taste of devil fruit. The first time was of course when he had just crossed over to eat the dark fruit, but later Sikong Ye transferred the dark fruit to the venom. By the way, the system, is Kazuki dead or not? Did you recreate the time fruit from Kazuki, or did you fish it out from a corner of the sea? The system didn't say a word, obviously not going to answer Sikong Ye's superclass question. Seeing that he couldn't get any useful information, Sikong Ye withdrew his attention from the system and turned to the hull upgrade reward. The land and sea warships can also travel on land when they have the previous diving function, while the sea and air warships have both the diving function and the floating function. As for the submersible male and female twin boats, it is equivalent to 2 sets of the original Emperor Star. The hull space of the third option is equivalent to twice that of the first 2, but Sikong Ye directly excludes it. Without hesitation, he chose option 2, the sea-air dual-purpose warship. As we all know, there are not many land islands in the world of One Piece. Even if there are, most of them are mountainous forest basins, plateau deserts, and flat areas are even rarer. Although the town roads are flat, the width of the streets is simply not enough for the Emperor Star to travel. In the final analysis, choosing sea and land battleships is better than choosing sea and air battleships, at least the airspace is thousands of times the land space. And a ship capable of navigating in the air would not be restricted by terrain at all. It seems that the lion fruit will not be useful in a short time, and the blueprint of the ark's proverbs does not seem to need to be deliberately searched. Sikong Ye muttered. After choosing the upgrade direction, the Emperor Star began to shake violently as a whole, and the space cavity of the hull expanded a lot. This surprised the newly joined crew members on the Emperor Star. The old crew members are popularizing the captain's strengthening phenomenon for the new crew members. Not long after, the Emperor Star stopped shaking, apparently the upgrade was completed. Sikong Ye didn't pay too much attention to other curious partners, and directly called up the system panel to check the changes of the Emperor Star. God-level pirate group system, host information. Name. Sikong Ye, position. Captain, combat power, S-class. Skills. Longevity and boat. Yumi boat spirit. Boat heart and boat meaning, ultra-distance boat delivery, soul boat chat, Heishi boat building, Wu-wei boat hidden. Traits. Dark fruit, 70%, nuclear fruit, 20%, networking fruit, 20%, time fruit, 1%, Rinne Sharingan, 33%, Zanpakutō Kyoga Suigetsu, 5%, poisonous quality, 75%, vector control, 5%, Tegu dimension square, 10%, conquerors, 8%, knowledge color, 16%, armed color, 5%, 6 forms, 10%. Partner information. 7 kills, Luffy, Zoro, Ace, Sabo, Kobe, Sanji. Diamond Suit Pojun, Kuina, Karina, Tashigi, New Okagao, Wolf, Kaya, Usopp, Nami, Bartolomeo, Robin. Hull information. Diamond Suit Ship Type, Class 4, Dual-Purpose Warship for Sea and Air. Filled Diamond Defense. Grade C, Power, Electric Type, Space, 240 cubic meters. Basic. Captain's Cabin X1, Pumping Water Storage and Water Purification Device X1, Open Top Glass Cover Deck X1, Solar Panel X3, Energy Converter X1, Power Generation and Storage Equipment X1, Electric Flight System X1. Weapons. Grid, Torpedo, Heroic Ship, Shadow Ship, External Mechanical Arm X1, Cannon X10, Homing Missile X5. Room. Reception Cabin X1, Kitchen X1, Bathroom X3, Bedroom X20, Seastone Swimming Pool X1, Gravity Training Room X1. Task Information. Mainline. Build a Federal Empire. Filled Circle General. Recruit Partners. Filled Diamond Achievements. Total wealth breaks through tens of billions. Diamond Suit Achievement. The total reward has exceeded 10 billion. Side Quest. Kill Teach. Support Line. Establish a network financial system. Subline. 10 partners offer a reward of over 100 million. The system panel shows that the Emperor Star has directly increased from the original 120 cubic meters to 240 cubic meters. 16 narrow one-bedroom cabins have also been turned into 20 independent bedrooms. Although they are still small, they can at least accommodate the entire crew. You know, when there were only 16 single-bedroom cabins, Robin had no place to sleep, so he could barely share a room with Kaya. The power source is still electricity, which can not only accelerate navigation, but also dive into the sea and float in the air, and the mobility has increased by more than a little bit. It is no exaggeration to say that 90% of the entire One Piece world, including sea, land and air, can be set foot on the Emperor Star. The overall appearance of Emperor Star, which has been upgraded to the 4th rank, is silver-white, with a strong metallic texture, and the streamlined hull gives people a different kind of beauty. The deck was widened quite a bit to accommodate the cabins. The captain's cabin and other places have also increased a lot of space. Sikong Ye glanced roughly, feeling that his mood had been satisfied like never before. "This is my home," Sikong Ye murmured in his heart. Then it suddenly occurred to me that there were still 4 growth gift packages that had not been distributed. Sikong Ye remembers that the system once said that the crew can get the 2nd gift package if the reward exceeds 100 million, and the 3rd gift package if the reward exceeds 1 billion. Ziwei and his gang jumped off the boat one after another, but they didn't go deep into the island. Sikong Ye then roared, "Little ones, get ready to board the ship, we are about to enter the little garden where the Titan lives." One night, the partners set up a bonfire and ate a barbecue, turned on the music player, and sang and danced to the rhythm to overwhelm the audience. Not far from Blue Ogre Dory, a Titan also wearing warrior armor, a helmet, a giant axe in his right hand and a buckler in his left, and a beard is his good friend Brogy, the Red Ghost. This figure is none other than Blue Ogre Dory of the Titan race. Afterwards, the two have been dueling in Little Garden. Only those who are alive can return to their hometown, and they agreed that whenever the volcano in the center of the island erupts, they will have a duel. One of the huge figures was wearing warrior armor, wearing a helmet, holding a giant sword in his right hand, and a round shield in his left, with a long beard. When I was about to check the gift package, Nami's voice suddenly came. "There are still 3 kilometers, we will arrive at Little Garden." Sikong Ye told Li Liao Zhao, Sanji to use a gourmet machine to make a bunch of barbecues, and ordered the crew not to leave the 300-meter range of the Emperor Star, and then let the partners patrol freely in Little Garden. Although they are all courageous and extremely strong, they can't afford to take risks. The brand new Emperor Star sailed towards Little Garden and docked slowly. In the depths of Little Garden, 2 unusually huge figures heard the unusual noise from the shore, and they were all very curious. The sky is getting dark, and it is easy to encounter danger if you enter the forest rashly. After staying on the boat for a long time, I always want to go back to the ground to experience the kind greetings of gravity. This is the nature of human beings. Blue Ogre Dory looks a bit like Guan Yu in Romance of the Three Kingdoms, and Red Ghost Brogy looks a bit like Zhang Fei. 90 years ago, Dory and Brogy each captured a sea king's, and started arguing about whose prey was bigger because of a little girl's question. It's a pity that he himself offered a reward of over 100 million and could not receive any gift packages. As for the gift bag, Sikong Ye intends to wait until he leaves Little Garden before distributing it. Chapter 200 The Titans of Little Garden. Luffy issued a challenge. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. However, the reason for the duel between the two was still indistinguishable. The giant soldier pirate group was disbanded, and the soldiers returned to Albuff to wait for the news. But this wait has lasted for 90 years, and Dory and Brogy have never been able to decide the winner. In fact, these two friends were reluctant to hack each other to death, so they kept drawing, deliberately wasting on this island. I don't know whether to say that this friendship is precious, or should I say that bragging comes at a price? If the two of them hadn't boasted that only the living can return to their hometown, they would have been relieved long ago. Back on track, Dory and Brogy are now smelling the aroma of barbecue, listening to the dynamic and rhythmic melody, and can't help but slowly approach the source of smell and sound. When the two approached half the distance, they had already found each other, but they smiled at each other and then continued to approach the coast. However, before the two of their titans entered the range of 1,000 meters, the strong vibration had already sent a reminder to Ziwei and his team. Kuina immediately spread her wings and flew to high altitude to investigate the situation. Before she could search carefully, she saw 2 figures that were so huge that she couldn't ignore them squatting a few trees away. But the other party buried his head, pretending that he was dozing off. Kuina. The girl suddenly had a sense of déjà vu that, there is no silver 300 tails here. Please, you two have such a big body and ran out to play peekaboo, don't you take us humans too seriously? Kuina rolled her beautiful eyes, and suddenly she got angry. When she heard the captain say that there is a titan here, 730 still had some doubts in her heart, but she didn't expect that the captain really hit the mark. It's just that the minds of these two titans seem to be a bit off. Ahem, we just came here to drink water, we didn't know there was anyone here. Dory tried to circle around with an embarrassed smile. Brogy on the side nodded repeatedly. That's right, we're just drinking water, we're not attracted by your barbecue and music. Kuina. You are such a clever little ghost. Ziwei and his group below were a little wary when they heard the stranger's voice, but after realizing that the other party's IQ was not as good as their own, they let down their guard a little bit. And when they noticed the two behemoths standing up, they were so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths from ear to ear, and their guards that had just been put down were raised again. So big. Little stars appeared in Luffy's eyes again. He swallowed the barbecue in one gulp, quickly cast Moonwalk and jumped into the air, and looked at the two titans who were like door gods. 5 seconds later, Luffy said, "I'm going to challenge you." Obviously, the first time Luffy saw Titan, he raised his desire to fight. After Zoro, Kuina, Ace and others saw this huge experience package, they also had the idea of challenging each other. A raging soldier, a raging nest. Sikong Ye always emphasizes the importance of training and fighting for the pirates. In addition to taking the lead in crazy training in their spare time, most of the crew members of the entire pirate group are full of fighting spirit. In the face of strong enemies, he might restrain himself a little, but in the face of those who are similar to himself, he always has to fight to accumulate some combat experience before he is willing to give up. But now, the fighting madmen in Ziwei pirates are eyeing Dory and Brogy. Dory scratched his head, and was interrupted by Sikong Ye when he was about to say something. "You two friends from the Titan family, why don't you sit down and have something to eat first? As for the sparring, it won't be too late until tomorrow." Sikong Ye prefers the way of doing things first and then soldiers, so he pulled Luffy and others back and invited the two titans to have dinner together. As for the food problem, there is no need for Sikong Ye to worry. Dory and Brogy have already consciously ran to the shore and started fishing. Inviting two super foodies and prostitution of two fishermen, it's not a loss. However, Sanji doesn't think so. Although the delicious barbecue is made by the gourmet machine, the legwork of putting in the ingredients and bringing out the finished product makes Sanji cry. Makino noticed Sanji's painful and angry look, so he said, "How about I help you share some work too?" No. How can this kind of tiring work bother the beautiful Miss Makino? Sanji instantly revived with full blood and ran errands harder. After all, it's all Sanji's doing. "Mr. Sanji, do you want me to help you split up some work?" Although the kind-hearted and polite Kebi was not smart, he could tell that Sanji was a bit reluctant at this time, so he asked aloud. "Then why are you still standing there? Why don't you hurry up and help me?" Sanji growled while serving the dishes. For boys, Sanji transfers all tolerance to girls. Fat. After all, this product is also made by myself. Seeing Kebi's end, Usopp secretly wiped off his sweat, and turned his head away from paying attention to Sanji, so as not to be pulled by Sanji to become a young man. However, some people avoid it, while others flock to it. Sanji's junior, let my great Bartolomeo help you. As a crew member who boarded the ship earlier than Sanji, Bartolomeo was very willing to lend a helping hand. "Thank you, Bardo." Sanji took Sky's path out of his busy schedule and thanked him. "Oh, and Kobe, thank you too." Kebi, who thought he had been forgotten, burst into tears when he heard Sanji's thank you, and immediately opened the 8 inner gates, and the speed of serving dishes instantly increased a lot. Seeing the cheerful atmosphere among the crew members, Sikong Ye shook his head and smiled, and turned his head to look at Dory and Brogy who were sitting cross-legged in front. "You just said that you have been in Little Garden for 90 years? Sikong Ye asked knowingly. "That's right, we once made an oath that only the winner can walk out of Little Garden alive and return to his hometown to lead the giant pirates." Brogy laughed, not at all decisive as expressed in the words, but full of ease and freedom. Dory also laughed heartily, as if he had already disregarded life and death. "Then have you considered leaving Little Garden together?" Sikong Ye asked again. Dory and Brogy looked at each other and shook their heads at the same time. Obviously, they have developed a strong affection for Little Garden and each other, and they have long been accustomed to life here. As for the grievances in the Jianghu, both of them left them behind, and they had a sense of detachment of running into Buddhism and not admiring the world of mortals. To be honest, Sikong Ye thinks that these two guys may become Buddhas immediately after shaving their heads. Afterwards, Sikong Ye continued to insinuate the two titans' thoughts during the conversation, but they obviously had no intention of leaving Little Garden. Sikong Ye thought, or simply sink the entire Little Garden, then Dory and Brogy should no longer cling to the oath they made 90 years ago. Maybe he can use this to bring Guan Yu and Zhang Fei, the two pirate versions, under his command. After a meal until the early morning, Ziwei and his group went back to the Emperor Star to sleep, while Dory and Brogy lay down and fell asleep on the spot. Hululu, hululu, loud snoring echoed throughout Little Garden. If it weren't for the independent bedroom that has been upgraded to the 4th level with its own sound insulation and noise reduction function, Ziwei and his group would have suffered from insomnia collectively. At least Sikong Ye couldn't fall asleep in this environment. The next day, Dory and Brogy wake up early and start hunting the Sea Kings, apparently planning to keep going. Sikong Ye and others woke up one after another, washed up and started their morning exercises facing the rising sun. When everyone wakes up, Sikong Ye calls the crew together and finds the Titan who is fishing and prepares for a friendly exchange. "I'll come first." Luffy was the one who yelled the loudest. Dory and Brogy looked at each other, and Shen Li took a step forward. "I will compete with you in this round." The two sides stood still, and Dory brandished his giant sword to cut out a cut, and then tapped the round shield lightly with the giant sword to signal that he was ready. Seeing this, Luffy took a step forward with his left foot, followed by a step forward with his right heel, his legs spread apart in a horse stance, and then he pressed his legs down, as if pumping blood in his body. Magic Oak Gear 2. As soon as the words fell, Luffy's whole body skin turned pink, and pink steam came out, and the aura was fully opened at this moment. Boom. The immature but domineering conqueror's haki swept around, and Dory was not affected in any way. On the contrary, the weaker crew members felt dizzy and sluggish. This idiot attacked the friendly army again. Zoro grunted, obviously still thinking about being stunned by Luffy conquerors last time. On the battlefield, after completing the second gear change, Luffy immediately cast a shaved body and came to Dory's cheek and raised his foot, which was a flying kick. Dory just turned his eyes to see Luffy's figure, and before his body could react, he was kicked to the ground. Obviously, at this moment, Luffy seems to have 80% of his strength in Dressrosa in the original book, which is more than enough to deal with Dory. Hey, what's the name of that dong-dong, can you do it? Luffy cast Moonwalk to stop in midair, looking down at Dory who fell to the ground, a little disappointed. Originally thought that the big and long-lived Titans would be a qualified opponent, but in the end, he gave him a second in one move. It's really boring. Ahem, just lost my mind. Dory got up, his face was a little ugly. Obviously he didn't expect that he would be knocked down by a kid who was only 7 years old. Chapter 201 Albuff's Gun, Encountering the Goldfish Island Eater. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. It seems that if you don't have any real skills, you will be underestimated by the younger generations. Dory spat lightly, and his fighting spirit suddenly increased several times. He stomped on the ground with his left foot, directly breaking a dozen tree trunks on the ground. Obviously intending to get serious. Dory, who has fought Brogy for 90 years in Little Garden, their strength is not as simple as it seems on the surface. Sure enough, at the moment Dory's words fell, Sikong Ye felt that the surrounding breath suddenly condensed into substance. A powerful and terrifying aura overflowed from Dory. The gun of Albuff. Dory roared loudly, and the fierce wind seemed to condense into a solid air cannon, stabbing towards Luffy's position. Magic Oak Third Gear Titan Air Cannon. Luffy casts the air protection feature, pours air into the bone of his right hand, and then covers armament haki, and attacks Dory's Albuff's spear while roaring out the name of the move. Puff. Two attacks containing air explosion collided together. However, just for a moment, Luffy's armor-colored Titan air cannon was shot through by Albuff's gun on the spot. A huge hole appeared in Luffy's right hand, and blood was constantly oozing out. Seeing this scene, Ziwei and his team were a little worried about Luffy's safety, while Sikong Ye was a little surprised by it. Albuff's spear is the strongest move among Titan fighters. In the original book, Dory and Brogy jointly performed this trick to solve the Island Eater blocking the Straw Hat crew. What he didn't expect was that before seeing the Island Eater, Dory used Albuff's gun on Luffy. Fortunately, Luffy has the body of a devil, and after the giant hand was pierced, it didn't take long for it to recover under the super resilience. Luffy subconsciously opened his mouth, not feeling the pain, but completely unexpected that Dory's attack could pierce through his armor. Is this the emission haki that the captain often says? Luffy muttered to himself, canceled the third gear, stepped on the moonwalk and stopped in midair without the slightest anger of being injured, but full of excitement. Hey, Dong Dong, what move did you use just now? Can you teach me? Although Luffy is a bit stupid, he is unique in physical skills. In the original book alone, Luffy created dozens of moves through rubber fruit. As for the king of brainholes, the whole world of One Piece must be Luffy. This is a werewolf who uses his whole body as a weapon. Pistols, whip legs, battle axes, seals, head hammers and even blood bones and muscles, almost all organs that can be used for fighting are effectively used by Luffy. Because of this, Luffy was keenly aware that Dory's spear of Albuff was very suitable for his fighting style. After all, with the combination of his third-level titanization and air defense characteristics, the air cannon he displays is very similar to Albuff's gun. However, Dory shook his head. You are not a titan, so you are not suitable for this trick. He didn't intend to hide the cultivation method of the Albuff's gun, but it's difficult to control it because of human nature. Who says I'm not a titan? My hands just got bigger. Luffy messed around, and at the same time landed on the ground and used the air controlling feature again, pouring air into the bones of the whole body. After a few minutes, Luffy swelled to the height of Dory's legs. I don't know what kind of material the clothes on his body are made of, but they were also stretched, and there was no sign of being broken at all. At first glance, it seems so reliable. Anyway, if Ziwei and his gang hadn't watched Luffy grow bigger with their own eyes, they would have subconsciously regarded Luffy as a Titan child. Luffy picked his nostrils, turned around with a proud face, and showed off. How about it, I can learn now. Seeing this, Dory nodded after being silent for a long while, and agreed to Luffy's request. After all, he also felt that Luffy was related to the Titans. After seeing that Dory was conscripted by Luffy, the fighters on the ship challenged another Titan Brogy. Dory is in charge of teaching Luffy, and Brogy is fighting with Ziwei and his group of combat freaks. The dynamics of the two groups of people in Little Garden are completely lively. Sikong Ye didn't get involved, and left the opportunity to accumulate combat experience to his partners, while he took out a sun lounger from the system space. Finding a comfortable place to set up a sun lounger, Sikong Ye rested while watching the battle between his partners and Brogy. The first to learn from Brogy were Kuina and Zoro, the two ultimate sword idiots, both of whom chose to single out Brogy. Since it was a friendly sparring, both sides did not use their full strength. After Kuina and Zoro used most of the sword moves, they were all exhausted and lost to Brogy. The rest of the fighters knew that they were not strong enough to challenge Brogy, so they formed a team of 2 or 3 to challenge. Brogy didn't care the slightest bit and took up the challenge. The whole morning, the battle freaks spent the sparring with the Titan, and Luffy also got the fur of Albuff's gun from Dory. Near noon, everyone gathered on the coast to eat barbecue again. In the afternoon, Ziwei and Dory Brogy returned to their daily routine in the morning. After fighting all afternoon, Brogy, who was tired of fighting, immediately grabbed Dory to take his place, and he took Dory's job and taught Luffy. In the evening, a hearty barbecue banquet started again. In this way, the Ziwei pirates got to know Dory and Brogy thoroughly, and lived a fulfilling life for 5 days in a row. During the period, the volcano on the island erupted once, and Dory and Brogy launched a unique battle. At first glance, it looks like an exhibition match. Fighters who have fought hundreds of matches with Titan these days are already familiar with how much Dory and Brogy are. Now seeing 2 Titans fighting like an exhibition game, suddenly boos 10 pieces. The 2 of you are so shameless that you didn't even turn on your armor. That's right, the giant sword chops the giant axe, there are just a few sets of back and forth, and there is no blood, and I doze off a little bit. Why don't you use the spear of Albuff? Each of you stabs the gun, and the outcome should be decided soon, right? Tisk tisk tisk, if the fight continues like this, I'm afraid it won't be possible to tell the winner in another 100 years. Dory. The complaints from the Ziwei pirates actually reached the ears of the 2 Titans, causing them to fall into silence, and even lost their interest in fighting. Seeking flowers, oh that's right, this kind of exhibition match has no meaning at all, but their Titans stand upright, spitting and nailing. Now that you have made an oath, there is absolutely no reason to renege on your promise. So, Dory and Brogy duo went even harder, for an exhibition match. During the 5 days of getting along, Sikong Ye made indirect inquiries countless times, but it was a pity that both Dory and Brogy rejected his invitation. So the helpless Sikong Ye had to temporarily put aside the idea of recruiting the Titans. Fortunately, the dimensional matrix is available, and Sikong Ye has already set coordinates on Little Garden, so he can revisit the old place at any time. During these 5 days, Luffy has initially mastered the use of Albuff's gun, and only needs more proficiency to bring out Dory's power. Luffy has learned a lot, and his partners have also gained a lot of experience through battles. Basically, the combat power of each crew member has improved a little. Of course, the combat power attributes of the stronger members on the ship have not changed, but this does not mean that they have not improved. Point 0 on the morning of the 6th day after landing in Little Garden, all the Ziwei pirates are ready to go to the next stop and start a new adventure. Dong dong, baboo, goodbye. When I find One Piece, I will come back to see you. The rest of the partners said goodbye one after another, while Dory and Brogy stood on the shore like door gods, without saying a word, but their eyes were also full of reluctance for the Ziwei pirates. Luffy stood on the ship's side, waved goodbye to the 2 Titans with a little reluctance. Just then, Nami's panicked voice came. Hey, why hasn't the magnetic force of the recording pointer been stored yet? What should I do? Sikong Ye found that Nami was still planning to use the record pointer to navigate, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. Of course, I miss the deliciousness of barbecue more. A goldfish suddenly surfaced, its body is as big as 3 or 4 little gardens, it is simply a Colossus Zero. Nami pouted, staring at Sikong Ye with big watery eyes. Captain, why don't we stay a few more days? The little navigator still doesn't know at the moment that not all islands are like Whiskey Hill, and the magnetic power can be fully stored in 2 or 3 days. Captain, you don't understand that you can only feel a sense of accomplishment by relying on the record pointer to navigate? Ghosts are willing to stay on this desert island for a year. In an instant, Nami put aside the naive idea before, walked into the captain's cabin, and showed her compromise with actions. The black technology navigator in the captain's room of the Emperor Star is not used, but the use of a very limited and somewhat unreliable recording pointer is used. I am afraid that the brain was damaged by lightning, right? Nami. On some special islands, it takes a long time to store magnetic power, even in units of years. But before the Emperor Star set sail, there was a sudden sway on the sea, followed by a sudden bump on the sea surface. Nami, the times are advancing, and technology is also developing. If you don't have a navigator, do you have to use the record pointer? Little Garden's magnetism takes a year to fully store. Are you sure you don't use the navigator? Sikong Ye smiled strangely. Chapter 202 Laboon discovered that Ziwei and his gang encountered Admiral for the first time, put on the shelves and asked for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. Sikong Ye recognized that this island eater was the one that was pierced by Dory and Brogy's Albuff gun in the original book. At this moment, the island eater happened to appear in front of the Emperor Star, opened its mouth wide, and sucked in all the surrounding seawater into its abdomen with a sudden inhalation. The Emperor's star was also driven by the current to approach the giant mouth of the Island Eater, and it was about to fall into the mouth of the Island Eater. All of a sudden, the Island Eater seemed to be hit by some creature from the sea, and immediately shot up into the sky. "It's Laboon!" Usopp exclaimed, and the eyes of the rest of the crew lit up. Unexpectedly, at this critical juncture, Laboon would suddenly appear and give the Island Eater a headhammer that was about to devour them. The island whale is interesting to the island-eating monster goldfish. Sikong Ye looked very interested, and planned to wait and see what happened to see who was stronger and who was weaker. On the surface of the sea, the Island Eater was attacked by a fish. He couldn't help but suffer pain. His floating body twisted and slapped Laboon's head with a sweeping tail. Just one slap, and the Laboon is pumped back into the sea. Laboon fell into the sea, setting off a wave of hundreds of meters high, which washed the Emperor's star back near the coast of Little Garden. However, this is not over yet. When the Island Eater fell into the sea, the resulting wave, 143, reached a height of more than 300 meters, rolling the Emperor's star into the central area of Little Garden. Little Xing, activate the flight mode. Sikong Ye, who firmly grasped the side of the boat, called out to the boat spirit. When Nami in the captain's cabin noticed the rolling and shaking of the ship, he had already entered an elemental state to prevent injury, and because of this, he left the Emperor's star and was suspended in midair. Good dad. Little Xing heard the words and knew that the situation was urgent, so he quickly manipulated the joystick in the captain's room with his thoughts. A moment later, the sixth gate injector suddenly popped out from the bottom of the Emperor's star, ejecting high temperature and strong wind to propel the hull into the air. Sikong Ye opened the venom suit, stretched out his tentacles, grabbed Kaya, Robin and other friends who were blown away by the impact, and rolled them back. When the Emperor's star stabilized in midair, all the crew members were terrified. They almost thought that they were going to crash the ship just now. Wow! Captain, our Emperor's star can actually fly. Nami returned to the deck of the Emperor's star in lightning mode, with shock written all over her pretty face. Only then did the rest of the crew realize that the Emperor's star was floating in the air at this moment. Captain, is this the lion fruit of the Golden Lion? Kuina guessed that, as a phantom thief who participated in the lion hunting campaign and stole 90% of the Golden Lion's treasure, she thought of the ability of lion fruit when she saw the Emperor's star floating in the air. No, this is a new ability born from my strengthening the Emperor's star with dark fruit. Sikong Ye waved his hand and said calmly. Nami. For some reason, she always felt that this reason was ridiculous, but she couldn't find any reason to refute it for a while. The same goes for the rest of the crew. After responding to Nami, Sikong Ye came to the side of the boat and looked down. At this time, Laboon and the Island Eater were fighting near Little Garden. Whether it is Laboon or Island Eater, they have no hands and feet, and are not good at biting. They mostly use their heads and tails when fighting, which is extremely simple. Bang! Pop! Bang! Pop! The two giant beasts first distanced themselves, then rushed towards each other, their heads bumped together, and then a dragon swung its tail, and the two tails collided with each other. In this way, a round ended, and Laboon and the Island Eater once again distanced themselves from each other, launching repeated headbutts and tail swings. 32. The crew. Is this how sea beasts fight? Why does it feel more like an exhibition match than the fight between Dory and Brogy? Sikong Ye complained that the sea fights that he had expected had become dull. Dory. Brogy. I'm not, don't talk nonsense. Captain, can you avoid some parties by saying this? Usopp leaned close to Sikong Ye's ear and whispered, pointing with his right hand to the Titan gatekeepers on both sides of the Emperor's star. Looking along his fingers, Sikong Ye suddenly found that the Emperor's star just stopped between the two Titans, and the levitation height was just at the same level as the eyeball's cheeks. Sikong Ye. Ahem. Well, your exhibition match is indeed more realistic than the following two sea beasts, at least you have more moves than them. Dory. Brogy. Can you hold back your words? Originally, the two of them wanted to help Ziwei pirates get rid of the sea beast in front of them, so that Sikong Ye and others could set sail smoothly. But when they heard Sikong Ye speak ill of them behind their backs, the idea showed signs of being extinguished. Moreover, the Emperor's star can fly, and the sea beasts are completely unaffected, so the two simply became the gods of eating melons. See ka 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 ka. At this moment, a layer of cold ice suddenly condensed on the surface of the sea, covering Laboon and the strange event of the eating island. In just a moment, Laboon and the Island Eater were covered in ice, completely frozen, and part of their bodies were still frozen on the sea surface. Jingle bell. The crisp ringtone attracted the attention of Ziwei's group and the two Titans, and they all subconsciously looked towards the source of the sound. I saw a tall man coming slowly on a bicycle. The man was wearing a white suit vest, a dark blue shirt, a marine cloak, and a green eye patch on his forehead. Sikong Ye and Robin's pupils shrank when they saw the person coming, and the rest of them were trying to shock the man on the bicycle. Plop. On the Emperor's star, Robin was terrified when he saw the person coming, stepped back a few steps, and fell to the ground. This scene caught the attention of the partners. Makino stepped forward and asked concerned, Robin, what's wrong with you? Miss Robin, why are you so scared? Is that guy below your fiancé? Usopp exclaimed. Rest of the crew. Your reasoning seems a bit off topic. Little Xing, control the Emperor's star to lift off. Sikong Ye wiped off his sweat, and quickly told the ship spirit to lift the pirate ship into the sky. However, little Xingxing hadn't moved yet. An icicle soaring into the sky hit the bottom of the Emperor's starship, and the ice sealed the entire pirate ship. The Emperor's star was firmly frozen by ice, unable to break free for a while, and all the crew members felt a bad feeling shrouded in their hearts. In that suit, the man riding the bicycle underneath is a Marine General Officer. Sabo, who was lying on the side of the ship, looked solemn. That guy's face is familiar. It seems to be Aokiji, one of the 3 admirals? Sanji frowned a little uncertainly. The rest of the crew members were horrified when they heard this, and Usopp and Nami were so frightened that they almost fainted. Don't panic, calm down, Sikong Ye said in a deep voice, thinking about why Aokiji appeared here and the corresponding countermeasures. Hey, Ziwei and his gang, why did you run away as soon as we met? At this moment, the man abandoned his bicycle and flew over the Emperor's star, and immediately landed lightly on the side of the ship, looking sleepily at everyone in the Ziwei pirates. All the crew looked at Aokiji vigilantly, with worries, fears, or battles on their faces. The list goes on. Oh, Lala, don't be murderous, buddy. I didn't come here after receiving any orders. I just thought the weather was good, so I went out for a walk. Aokiji's casual words made Ziwei and his team dare not take it lightly. Are you Marine Admiral Aokiji? The highest combat power of naval headquarters? Zoro asked coldly, holding his hands tightly on the handle of the knife. Oh Lala, it seems that my brother knows me. The corner of Aokiji's mouth twitched, and he looked at Robin who was slumped on the ground. You have grown up, Nico Robin, son of the devil. Boom. Robin's heart was beating violently, and his whole body was terrified to ultimate. Hey, you're scaring my partner. Luffy rushed forward with raised fists and growled. Sanji and Usopp hurriedly grabbed Luffy. Luffy, you are exactly the same as your grandfather, just as unrestrained and unpredictable. Aokiji's tone was calm, as if he was talking about a very ordinary thing. I am under the care of your grandpa, and I went to East Blue with your grandpa to perform a mission not long ago. I came here just by chance, looking for Teach's trail. I didn't expect to meet Mr. Garp's grandson. What a surprise. But what surprised me even more is that Nico Robin will be with you in 1.4. Is this world too small? When Aokiji said this, his originally calm tone suddenly changed, full of murderous aura, which made people feel like falling into an ice cellar. If there is a person with frozen fruit ability on board, I don't think it will feel hot in summer, and I can get a few popsicles to eat. I won't let you take Robin, Luffy yelled at Aokiji. It's not up to you, brother Luffy. Aokiji doesn't actually have much malice towards Luffy, after all, his relationship with Mr. Garp is there. Coupled with the lazy justice he pursues, he can turn a blind eye to the Ziwei pirates, which have not committed any great crimes. But not Robin. The girl he once let go survived betrayal and escape, and every pirate ship she stayed on was completely annihilated. Aokiji will not let Robin stay in Ziwei pirates and continue to harm his respected Mr. Garp's grandson's partners. Skate. Aokiji blew in the air, condensed into a skate, and drank in the direction of Robin. Chapter 203 Difficult Logia, can you take a step to speak? Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. Clang. Zoro rushed in front of Robin, drew out the magic knife Chinba to block Aokiji's skate. Crew members who want to hurt me have to pass my level first. Oh. Aokiji quickly released the cold air that spread to the magic knife Chinba, and just when it was about to spread to the palm of his hand, Zoro pulled back the magic knife in time. Feeling the magic sword Thousand Blades that cannot be broken into pieces after being frozen, Zoro resolutely gave up melee combat and pulled out Senbonzakura. Scatter, Japanese Sakura. Zoro spoke Shikai, and Senbonzakura instantly turned into countless Sakura flower petals, blocking all escape space for Aokiji, and then began to spin and cut crazily. Kacha kacha. Aokiji turned into ice cubes and fell to the ground, and the next moment it was intact again, twisting his neck, and let out a breath of cold air. Good knife. Damn it, it's Logia. Zoro immediately thought of elementalization after realizing that physical attacks were ineffective. With the existence of Ace and Nami, Zoro is very clear about the elementalization of Logia Devil Fruit and the corresponding restraint ability. On the entire Emperor Star, except for Sikong Ye and Luffy who have mastered the armed colors, the rest of the crew are still in the awakening stage. Facing the elementalization of Logia Devil Fruit, they can only catch blind. No, fight poison with poison, counter violence with violence, only magic can defeat magic. In the face of Logia's elementalization, apart from armament hockey, other elemental attacks can also play a certain role. Of course, this must have a certain restraint, like fire versus ice. If you use fire elements to deal with light elements, then 14 will definitely not work, but dealing with ice will definitely be more effective than physical attacks. Super Killer Explosive Flame Dragon Star. Usopp obviously thought of this, and the long-nosed sniper took out his slingshot and aimed at Aokiji for Guy Rui's audience. However, just as he condensed the explosion flame and called out the name of the move, he saw Aokiji lightly blowing a breath towards his slingshot, and then his explosion dragon star was aborted. Usopp. Shout, Usopp, don't show your little flame out of shame. the flame of my Fire Fist Ace is the strongest. Ace sneered. As the only person with fire ability on the ship, he and Usopp naturally refused to accept each other. In terms of aiming, Ace has been ridiculed by Usopp. This time he has the opportunity to stand up and suppress this long nose who likes to lie very much. The Great Flame Ring. Puff! Ace's flame was extinguished in an instant before it condensed. No matter how Ace released the summon, it would have no effect at all. Peefed, ha ha ha. Your flames can actually burst into fart sounds. It's amazing. Already 1/10,000 stronger than my Usopp god tier. Usopp didn't hesitate to laugh at himself. Ace blushed, and immediately got into a fight with Usopp. If Sabo and Bartolomeo hadn't been on the sidelines acting as peacemakers, these two guys would have ignored Aokiji and started directly. Tisk tisk, the relationship between Uziwe pirates is very harmonious. Aokiji hooked the corner of his mouth, and then explained. The flame can indeed restrain the ice, but the premise is that your flame is stronger than my ice. Ace and Usopp heard the words and knew that they had made a fundamental mistake, so they stood in the crowd with their heads down and said nothing. Seeing that no one was fighting, Luffy naturally turned around and stood at the front, waving his two small fists and said viciously. I don't care what relationship you have with my grandpa, scare my partner to tears, I will definitely beat you up today. With that said, Luffy quickly shifted into second gear and covered armament hockey. Seeing this scene, Aokiji opened his mouth wide, his face full of disbelief. Yeah, I didn't expect Mr. Garp's grandson to awaken armament hockey when he was only 7 years old. It seems that Marine has underestimated how dangerous you are. In this way, I may not be able to keep you. Frozen moment. Aokiji reached out to grab Luffy, lazily calling out the name of the move. His movements are not fast, not at the level of Marine's peak combat power at all, and he doesn't know how much water he has released. Sikong Ye has read the original book, and knows very clearly that Aokiji will not kill Luffy, nor will he do anything to Luffy's partner. At most, it's just a few words of scaring and then freeze a few people for fun. And as the captain, he can't just watch the crew being wronged, not to mention Aokiji probably won't let him go. In order not to turn into a popsicle, Sikong Ye felt that it was necessary to have a good communication with Aokiji, so that the lazy admiral would give up this arrest with a strong performance. I don't know what happened to me recently. I first watched an exhibition match of the Titans, and then watched an exhibition match between sea beasts. I didn't expect that Aokiji Admiral would also come to perform. Tisk tisk, everyone is an actor, can't there be more sincerity and less routine between people? Wait, Aokiji Admiral, can I take a step to speak? Sikong Ye covered the venom suit again, and stretched out his tentacles to pull Luffy back. Hearing this, Aokiji stopped what he was doing, with a weird expression on his face. Who are you? Do we know each other very well? Why do you want to borrow a step to talk? Why can't you just say something? Aokiji's continuous questioning made Sikong Ye subconsciously stunned for a moment. What I want to say is the best thing you know, it's not good for more people to know. When you say that, I'm not interested at all. Aokiji scratched his head with a look of embarrassment. Sikong Ye then took out Luffy as a bargaining chip, and said with a stern face, Aokiji Admiral, you can let go of the fighting and killing, anyway, our Ziwe pirates can't escape. For Luffy's sake, give us a chance to communicate in private. Hearing what Sikong Ye said to this point, Aokiji sighed. Since you want to chat privately, then come with me. After saying that, Aokiji jumped off the Emperor Star and fell from a height of hundreds of meters. Even Moonwalk didn't bother to use it. He seemed to be extremely confident in his jumping ability. However, at the next moment, Aokiji fell into countless pieces of ice in the eyes of the two Titan goalkeepers. Standing on the side of the ship, Sikong Ye twitched his mouth when he saw this scene. What a guy, he actually used elementalization to play falling from high altitude. He didn't follow suit, and after telling his partners not to disembark, he used Moonwalk to land slowly. Falling into the air, Blue Ogre Dory asked Sikong Ye aloud, Little friend, do you need us to help you solve this Jawa? No need. Sikong Ye refused. Aokiji is Logia Admiral, and his strength is definitely above the two Titans. He has no intention of pulling his friends into the water. And Aokiji won't make it difficult for them, dragging Dory and Brogy in hastily will only make things worse. When it landed on the ground, Sikong Ye saw the recovered Aokiji lying on the ice, posing in a lazy sleeping position, and kept complaining. I heard that Kaido didn't fall to his death after jumping from Sky Island. I don't think it's so strange, I can do it too. Sikong Ye. Your name is Sikong Ye, right? What do you want to talk to me about? Could it be that you deliberately tricked me down to buy time for your friends to escape? Aokiji asked back. Sikong Ye didn't answer, but pointed in the direction of Dory and Brogy, indicating that there are still people here who can hear the conversation. Ka. Aokiji used Ice Age to create a semicircular ice cover, covering him and Sikong Ye's heads, and said in a helpless tone, Is this all right? After confirming that he would not be eavesdropped by others, Sikong Ye said, Aokiji Admiral, there is no need to fight to the death between us. Oh, why? We are the relationship between Marine and Pirate, 807. Because our Ziwe pirates are actually with you, Aokiji Admiral. Sikong Ye revealed his undercover identity. The reason why Aokiji was told was naturally that Sikong Ye wanted to avoid some troubles. As for the secrecy, it's actually not a problem. After all, Aokiji is one of the 3 admirals in Marine, loyal to Marine. Even if they know their identities, they won't let them out easily. Of course, Sikong Ye has read the original work and has some understanding of Aokiji's character, which made him dare to speak out his undercover identity with confidence. Since they are all in the same industry, if Sikong Ye did not tell the truth and was taught a lesson by Admiral, it would be a real injustice. Even if Aokiji leaked information after learning of his Marine undercover identity, this blame is still Aokiji's fault, not their Ziwei pirates. It doesn't matter to him whether he joins Marine, enters Shichibukai, or leaves Marine after his identity is exposed. That's right, Sikong Ye at this moment is not the weak chicken that East Blue was at that time. He now also has the strength to challenge Marine. Of course, he will not challenge Marine easily. It was just to leave a way out for themselves, and to ensure that they would not be manipulated to death by Marine to a certain extent. Coming together. Hey, your joke isn't funny at all. Aokiji immediately put on a straight face to express his displeasure, but still didn't intend to get up. Sikong Ye spread his hands. I'm not lying, I'm a Marine undercover promoted by Mr. Garp himself, and I have an agreement with Marine. As he said that, Sora Ye took out the signed contract from the system space and showed it in front of Aokiji. After Aokiji noticed Mr. Garp's autograph at the end, he became uneasy for a moment, and immediately sat up and looked at the contract repeatedly. However, no matter how you look at it, this contract does not look like a fake. Chapter 204 Competing with Peers, Aokiji with itchy hands and skin. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. It's just that Aokiji is still dubious. A piece of paper can't prove anything, and there are ways to forge such things. Sikong Ye collected the contract and took out the phone bug Garp gave him. Look, does the image of this phone bug look familiar? Is this Mr. Garp's phone bug? Aokiji also didn't realize that the phone bug was fake. The image of the phone bug will be simulated according to the appearance of its owner, and the image of the phone bug in Sikong Ye's hand is indeed exactly the same as Garp. Unless there is someone who is 90% similar to Mr. Garp, it is impossible to have such a similar phone bug. It's nothing. Luffy is Mr. Garp's grandson, and it's not surprising that Mr. Garp has a phone bug. Aokiji still didn't fully believe Sikong Ye's words. Unless Sikong Ye dials Mr. Garp's phone bug in front of him, and Mr. Garp personally admits Sikong Ye's identity, Aokiji will fully believe that Sikong Ye is Marine's undercover agent. Hey, I told you enough is enough, don't when I get on the phone, you say that Garp on the other end of the phone is pretending. Sikong Ye curled his lips, a little impatient. Okay, I promise it's the last time. Hearing what Aokiji said, Sikong Ye thought about it and dialed Garp's phone bug. Boo 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 boo. Hey, Xiao Yeji, why don't you call me when you have time? Do you want to provide me with some important information? After hearing Garp's leisurely words on the other end of the phone, Aokiji was completely convinced and did not go further to verify. Because there is no need. Aokiji has known Garp for at least 10 years and knows Garp's voice and personality perfectly. He believes that with Sikong Ye's ability, it is absolutely impossible to imitate. Grandpa Garp, can't I chat with you if I have nothing to do? I have been a little free recently, and I happened to find that the phone worm was hungry. So I chatted with you for a while feeding the phone worm, as if it was giving warmth to the lonely old man. Crazy. Garp cursed and hung up the phone. Seeing this, Aokiji looked at Sikong Ye strangely. He really didn't expect that Sikong Ye would dare to tease Mr. Garp. God, send warmth to the widowed and lonely elderly. Not to mention that Mr. Garp's body is still very strong now, just having a son and a grandson under his knees has nothing to do with orphans and widows. Okay, I believe it, I don't make things difficult for you, it's okay. Aokiji stood up and raised his hand as a gesture of surrender. He didn't expect that he happened to meet the Ziwei pirates by chance, but it turned out to be a friendly army, so he really couldn't trouble them anymore. But, the next moment, Aokiji's right hand was covered with ice and grabbed Sikong Ye suddenly. The latter was stunned, and quickly covered the venom suit, crossing his arms to block and barely blocked the move. Aokiji Admiral, what do you mean? It's nothing, since we are colleagues, it's not too much to learn from each other. Hearing Aokiji's lazy words, Sikong Ye's head was full of black lines. Good guy, when we were hostile, you had to pick things up, but now that we are together, you still have to come here to discuss. After working for a long time, your skin is itchy, isn't it? Oh no. It's itchy hands, wait a minute, it seems that this guy's skin is itchy too, he really deserves a beating. You are sure to compete. Although my strength is not as good as yours, I still have a few tricks. When the time comes, don't call me mom. After speaking, Sikong Ye immediately cast Sharingan to release an illusion. I'd really like to meet your so-called killer. Peeved. Aokiji was still chatting leisurely with Sikong Ye, and the next moment he felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Also at this moment, the illusion disappeared, and only then did he realize that he had been pierced through his abdomen by several black tentacles at some point. And his elementalization is invalid. Apparently Sikong Ye also mastered armament hockey. Coughing up a mouthful of blood again, Aokiji's eyes were full of confusion, he couldn't understand how he was injured in that short moment just now. It seems to be affected by the hypnosis technique of folk strange people and strangers. But even with the hypnosis technique, he should be able to sense danger through observation haki. How could Aokiji have thought that just now, Sikong Ye not only cast the Sharingan illusion, but also opened the time-stop domain of the time fruit at the same time? Even if it is only 1/10 of a second, it is enough for Sikong Ye to give Aokiji a thunderous blow in an instant. Of course, Sikong Ye has covered the tentacles with armed colors in advance, and he also used vector control. If this can't hurt Aokiji, where is his time traveler's face? Of course, Sikong Ye is very clear that he was just opportunistic just now, and if it is a head-on battle, there is only a 10% chance of winning. Moreover, the time-stop domain can only stop time for a short time, and the area of stopping time is also very narrow, and it can only be used once a day. The restrictions are so many that Sikong Ye can't help but smash his tongue. The time fruit has many restrictions, but it is also very powerful. If he aimed at the head just now, he might take Aokiji's life. However, it is only possible. After all, observation haki is also an unreasonable existence. It often has an early warning ability that is beyond ordinary people's understanding of fatal dangers. In addition, people in the world of One Piece generally have extremely monstrous physiques, and headshots may not be able to instantly kill them. The most important thing is that Aokiji doesn't have a deep hatred with him, and he can't kill Aokiji to provoke Marine, a giant in the sea. How did you do it? Aokiji recovered from his injuries quickly, but he expressed complete incomprehension of Sikong Ye's weird methods. It felt like he had lost the memory of being attacked before. This is my trump card, so of course I can't let it out at will. But Aokiji Admiral, are you sure you want to continue fighting? My next trump card is something you can bear. Sikong Ye kindly reminded, but Aokiji was determined to teach Sikong Ye a lesson, so naturally he would not give up so easily. Sikong Ye, just use any moves you have, I want to see. But the next moment Aokiji was speechless. Because right in front of his eyes, Sikong Ye condensed an extremely violent energy ball, threatening him no less than the 4 emperors. Impossible. You can't have the strength of the 4 emperors. Aokiji couldn't believe that Sikong Ye had the strength of the 4 emperors anyway. I really don't have one, otherwise I wouldn't call it a trump card. Sikong Ye said and retracted the nuclear energy ball into the poisonous liquid. This is the nuclear energy essence that Venom has accumulated for a long time, and it is more than enough to destroy a large island when it is released. Sikong Ye is well aware that his combat strength is currently only level 5. It is incomparable with S+ ranks like Aokiji, but that's only because his own physical fitness has become a drag. If he is desperate, he is not afraid to fight Admiral. Aokiji looked at Sikong Ye wrapped in the Venom suit with lingering fear on his face, feeling unprecedented vigilance and worry. He was 80% sure of surviving the blow just now, but he must have been seriously injured. If Sikong Ye threw it at Naval Headquarters Marineford, it would probably kill countless Marines below the elite Vice Admiral. Terrible, really terrible. Fortunately, Sikong Ye is their Marine faction, otherwise. Hey, Aokiji doesn't dare to think about it anymore. Sikong Ye, you are very powerful, why not be a Marine with me? I promise you will become the next Marine Admiral. Sikong Ye shook his head. I still prefer adventures in the sea. This is from the heart. Although he respects those in Marine who are truly dedicated to justice, he doesn't like the atmosphere in Marine. Maybe it's because Marine is subject to 5 elders and celestial dragons? It's better to be a pirate than a knife in the hands of 5 elders and celestial dragons. Besides, can't justice be done when you become a pirate? The original Straw Hat Crew's behavior is much better than countless fallen Marines. The most important thing is that he, Sikong Ye, is a time traveler after all, and it would be a bit too miserable if he had to perform the 8-hour work system of 9 am to 5 every day after time travel. I hope you won't become our Marine's enemy in the future. Wangs, Aokiji looked at Sikong Ye's figure with deep eyes and sighed. Sikong Ye followed Aokiji's words and replied, I will always stand on the side of justice, but I don't know if you Marine can always stand on the side of justice. Hearing this, Aokiji fell silent. He understood the 3 meanings expressed in Sikong Ye's words. First, Sikong Ye may not always be on the side of Marine. Second, Marine is not necessarily just, at least not entirely just. Third, the winner is justice, and Sikong Ye does not necessarily stand on the side of justice. The 2 fell into a long silence, and then Aokiji removed the ice cover and Sikong Ye stepped on the moonwalk and returned to the Emperor Star. Aokiji followed behind Sikong Ye with a bicycle on his shoulders. Why are you following me? Sikong Ye immediately said angrily, what's the matter, you plan to blackmail me after being injured by me? I'm injured, and it's inconvenient to ride a bicycle across the ocean. I plan to use your pirate ship to recuperate for a while. Aokiji took it for granted, obviously telling Sikong Ye, I'm just cheating on you, so what can you do? If you want to get on the boat, you can. Hurry up and help my pet Laboon defrost. Sikong Ye pointed to the whale Laboon frozen into an ice sculpture by Aokiji and roared. Chapter 205 Growth Gift Pack. Aokiji becomes Ziwei Tuan's instructor. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. HP Pavilion X 361 4 Kun Heiyi Baiji Busheng Dian Now 14 EK 1025 Tu Yin Se D13 Dai Intel Core i5 Chu Li Chi Windows. I am a frozen fruit capable person. I can only release ice, but not absorb it. Aokiji put down his bicycle and spread his hands, expressing helplessness. Seeing Aokiji's unscrupulous appearance, casually leaning on the edge of the deck and planning to sleep, Sikong Ye had no choice but to ask Ace and Usopp for help. Don't worry, Captain, this matter is on me, Usopp God tier. Usopp smiled and agreed, then turned to Ace and said, I will leave this matter to you. Ace. Plop. Sikong Ye knocked on Usopp's head with a heartbeat of love. I don't need you to be a middleman to make the difference. Yes, I got it wrong, I'm going to melt Laboon now. After speaking, Usopp found a rope and climbed down the Emperor Star. Ace snickered, and immediately his legs shot out flames, and his whole body soared into the sky, reaching the sea level faster than Usopp. Landing on top of Laboon, Ace begins to unleash flames to melt the ice. After a while, Usopp also joined in the task of melting ice, but his method was more brutal than Ace. Being both dragon explosive and bomb fruit, every hit of Usopp has an explosive effect, and many times it even accidentally injures Laboon. On the Emperor Star, Sikong Ye watched the ice melting process of Ace and Usopp, and called two little girls, Kuina and Kaya. Kuina, you take Kaya down to treat Laboon. What are you going to do with the other sea beast, Captain? Kuina winked at Sikong Ye, obviously asking how to deal with the Island Eater. Sikong Ye pondered for 2 seconds. The old way, call Luffy and Kuina, you go and recover the Island Eater together. Wait. Sikong Ye suddenly remembered that there was a Recovery 920 master on board, so he added, let's go to Sanji. Sanji has gourmet cells, and Island Eaters are excellent ingredients, which will definitely allow Sanji to quickly improve his combat power in a short period of time. Due to being held up by Aokiji, it is impossible for the Emperor Star to set sail today. So Sikong Ye waited until Laboon was rescued, took the crew back to Little Garden, and continued to eat barbecue with the remains of the Island Eater. When Dory and Brogy saw that they could eat another day of delicious food, they were so happy from ear to ear, eating and drinking while having fun. As for Aokiji, he was sleeping soundly on the deck of the Emperor Star at an altitude of hundreds of meters, but he smelled the aroma of barbecue and joined the banquet held by the pirates. Robin, it seems that you have found a partner who is willing to protect you. Aokiji picked up a piece of grilled fish from the table, and talked to Robin beside him while eating. Robin, who was sitting in front of the dining table, froze slightly, trying to calm down and said, I'm very lucky to have met them. I hope you can cherish this friendship. Luffy's grandfather is my benefactor, and I don't want my benefactor's grandson to be stabbed in the back, Aokiji said coldly. I think Mr. Aokiji must have misunderstood something. I also found out a lot about what you did in West Blue. I didn't arrest you, just because I wanted to see if that 8-year-old girl was the devil who would eventually become the world-destroying demon as said in the reward order. The son of Robin. By the way, the last time we met was when you were 8 years old. At that time, there seemed to be a titan standing by your side. I didn't expect that the second time we met, there were 2 giant, buffet, people standing by your side. Aokiji sighed and moved away from Robin, who didn't fully understand the meaning of Aokiji's words. Is it possible that this guy regretted what he did before because he saw 2 members of the Titan family, recalling Saul? Oh, crocodile tears. Robin snorted coldly in his heart, and ate the grilled fish, as if he wanted to vent all his fear of Aokiji on the food. An Island Eater, Ziwei's group, the 2 Titans and Aokiji ate for a whole day, until only the fish skeleton remained. Divide the fish and the big Dory, Brogy Faye and Sanji Shao to clean up. Luffy's combat power jumped to S rank. Sanji was also promoted to C grade. The improvement of the strength of the 2 big stomach kings envied the crew members. They also liked the ability to eat without gaining weight and improve their strength. Of course, they are more envious of Sanji's ability to make food into delicacies and become stronger after eating, rather than Luffy's ability to eat whatever he sees. After the banquet was over, Ziwei and his team returned to the Emperor Star to rest. After saying goodbye to Dory and Brogy early the next morning, they drove the Emperor Star back to the sea and continued on to the next stop. The reason why I don't use the flight mode is mainly because I'm afraid that Laboon will be lost. And flying in the air all the time will also lose a lot of adventure experience. The life on the Emperor Star has once again entered into daily practice. Because of the presence of Aokiji, Sikong Ye did not blatantly give the growth gift package to the 4 crew members who were the first to break the 100 million reward. Instead, they planned to screen in their minds first, and then secretly infuse them into the crew members. Ding! Luffy offers a reward of over 100 million, please choose the growth package. Option 1. Clone technique. Option 2. Shadow clone. Option 3. Multiple shadow clone techniques. Ding! Kuina offers a reward of over 100 million, please choose the growth gift package. Option 1. Wind style. Option 2. Breath of the wind. Option 3. Fadian Yujian style. Ding! Kaya offers a reward of over 100 million, please choose the growth package. Option 1. Dunshan Luha. Option 2. Summoning Katsuyu. Option 3. Dragon Slayer magic in the sky. Ding, Robin offers a reward of over 100 million, please choose the growth gift package. Option 1. Bull Charm. Option 2. Breath of the Flower. Option 3. Woods Modeling Magic. After seeing the growth gift packages of the four, Sikong Ye decisively chose multiple shadow clone techniques for Luffy. After all, this is the best of the three options. Afterwards, Sikong Ye chose the flying sword style for Kuina, the Dragon Slayer magic in the sky for Kaya, and the cow charm that Robin had to choose. Although wind style is good, it is not suitable for Kuina, who takes the swordsmanship route. As for the breath of the wind, how can it compare with the flying sword style? There is no other reason to choose Dragon Slayer magic for Kaya, it is purely to improve Kaya's physical fitness and increase mana. After all, the spell has been modified by the system to rely on physical fitness. If Kaya's physical fitness is too weak, it will become a shortcoming. It is better to use the Dragon Slayer magic to make up for this shortcoming. To be honest, Dunshan Luha is actually pretty good, but unfortunately, according to the optimal order, it can only be ranked behind Dragon Slayer magic. As for summoning Katsuyu, he does the ability of Ima Talisman still need Katsuyu's assistance. System. I didn't expect you to give Robin a cow charm. This charm replaces Kilin's arm to a certain extent, and it's terrifying when paired with flower fruit and wood style's true several thousand hands. Sikong Ye sighed in his heart. The only regret was that Robin was weak and had little mana, but both wood style and bull talisman were big eaters of mana. Robin just feeding one flower fruit is probably the limit, and the wood style Wagyu charm can only be used as a trump card for the time being. Fortunately, I was resourceful and fed the nuclear energy fruit to the venom early, otherwise my mana would definitely be the last existence on the ship. Sikong Ye murmured in his heart, and then found the four people respectively, secretly pouring the characteristics into the bodies of the four people. Afterwards, the days returned to the practice state again. Sikong Ye would ask Aokiji to have dinner together at every mealtime, but they rarely communicate with each other on weekdays. After all, the two sides have opposing positions on the surface, so they can't be too friendly. On the contrary, Kebi and Tashigi like to get close to Aokiji, and ask Aokiji from time to time for the training points of Marine 6 Styles and Conqueror's Haki. The rest of the partners felt like hell when they saw this scene. At the back, almost all the crew members came to Aokiji to ask about some things they didn't understand about cultivation, which made Aokiji unable to sleep soundly. The whole pirate ship looks very weird, with a hippopotamus pattern on the bow, a skull licking its tongue is depicted on the pirate flag, and a crown is on top of the skull. In the original book, the Drum Kingdom was attacked by Teach, and King Wapol abandoned his people and fled to sea with his men to establish the White Iron Pirates. Days passed and it was already the end of December. It was snowing lightly on the sea, and from time to time on the Emperor Star, the crew members could be seen making snowmen or having snowball fights, having a great time. Sikong Ye found that Aokiji showed no sign of moving away, so he didn't open the glass cover, and let Aokiji drenched in snow on the deck. On the last day of December, the Emperor Star approached the waters of Magnetic Drum Island. The navigator Nami keenly noticed an unidentified pirate group suddenly appearing near the Emperor Star. And the flag of the White Iron Pirates seems to be sticking out the tongue. What's going on? Could it be that Teach and Marco went to Drum Island, and Wapol saw the situation was not going well, so he broke off and slipped away? However, Marine Admiral also explained to Kebi and the others in a very good temper. Nami called Sikong Ye, and the latter realized instantly after checking it. But come to think of it, the White Iron Pirates in front of me were probably established by Wapol. But what can he do? If he eats and drinks every day and doesn't make up for it, where will he put Aokiji Admiral's face? Are you not afraid of the enemy? Sikong Ye couldn't guess the direction of the plot for a while. Nami blinked, not understanding how this pirate ship suddenly appeared. Nima, I have never seen a pirate ask Marine Admiral for advice on cultivation. It would be nice if he could catch a cold, but unfortunately Aokiji is a frozen person, even if he is covered with snow, he will not feel cold. Chapter 206 Wapol appears. Sikong Ye's spiritual question. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. Ahahaha, I didn't expect that Wapol, just left Drum Island and was worried about the lack of supplies, and a new little white pirate appeared in front of me. If you don't grab it, wouldn't you be sorry for God's kindness? On the top of the Bully King, a fat and ugly man slowly climbed out of the submarine, looked at the metallic hull of the Emperor Star and couldn't help licking his lips, looking like he was about to cry. The man's hair was dark purple, his mouth was extremely large, and his chin was bordered by a cylindrical tin plate. He was wearing plate armor and a white hooded cape made of tin. This person is none other than Wapol, king of the Drum Kingdom. Behind Wapol, two men crawled out. One of them has thick wavy lips, extremely long arms, and is good at using bows and arrows. He is Wapol's staff officer Jace. The other, with an afro and boxing gloves, is Wapol's affairs officer. The three of them stood on the top of the Bully King, looking at the Emperor Star in good and evil ways, as if they regarded the Z-Way pirates as their prey. King Wapol, the pirate ship on the opposite side seems to be full of teenage brats. I don't think I need to trouble you to take action. Chromarimon and I can handle it. Jess' face was full of promises, and he had already started claiming credit before the battle started. That's right, King Wapol, I also think Jess is right. Chromarimon immediately echoed. Ahaha, since you have this idea, then leave it too. Crash. A clear sound of running water interrupted Wapol's words. Wapol was a little dissatisfied, and immediately looked along the source of the sound, and found a blond old man who had just climbed out of the sea. Who are you? This is the ship of the great King Wapol who allowed you to land without permission, Jace scolded the blond old man while sucking up Wapol's ass. Wapol was very useful for this, and looked at the blond old man with his nostrils upturned. Now that you know the name of this king, you poor old man, why don't you hurry to the sidelines? You didn't see that I was planning to rob the seaboat opposite. A thief ship? The blonde-haired old man was reprimanded, but he didn't show any anger, and still showed a warm and flat smile on his face. You said just now that you were going to rob the pirate ship opposite? The old man said with a smile. There really are everyone in the sea. What? Is there a problem? Wapol faintly sensed that something was wrong. The blond old man took off his clothes and wrung them dry, and introduced to Wapol. The pirate ship opposite has 5 crew members with a bounty of over 100 million. Do you think you have a chance of winning against them? 5 pirates with a reward of over 100 million? Old man, you are not bluffing, are you? Chromarimon obviously had some disbelief, and feigned 2 punches at the blond old man. I don't have time to joke with you guys. The blond old man wrung out his shirt and put it on again. Immediately afterwards, the eyes of the old man suddenly became fierce, and his aura rose steadily, like a lion about to wake up, and the 3 of Wapol were so frightened that they dared not say a word. At this moment, they understood that neither the pirate group on the opposite side nor the blond old man in front of them were existences that their masters could afford to provoke. Boy Sikong, since you have already seen the old man, why don't you come out and see him? The blond old man shouted towards the Emperor Star. Sikong Ye in the captain's cabin heard the news, came to the deck with a dignified expression, and asked, I don't know why the famous Pluton Rayleigh is looking for me. Seeing such a tense scene, the rest of the crew on board stopped what they were doing and walked behind Sikong Ye. Their purpose was self-evident. Especially when they heard Sikong Ye talk about Pluton Rayleigh, 4 words, the partners who knew some inside information were horrified, and made science popularization to the people around them with trembling voices. Among the crew, the one with the most ugly face is Ace. Ace naturally knew that Pluton Rayleigh had been on his father's crew. He hates what Luo Jia did to make their mother and son live a life where everyone shouts and beats them. He hates Rayleigh and naturally doesn't like Rayleigh. Aokiji continued to lie on his side on the deck without any movement. Even the name Pluton Rayleigh did not cause Aokiji the slightest disturbance. You should still remember the Murloc pirates that were wiped out? Rayleigh asked Sikong Ye from hundreds of meters away on the King Bully. Remember, a group of racists bullying ordinary villagers under the banner of Murloc supremacy is a certain group of scum. Sikong Ye tried to smear the Murloc pirates in his answer. Of course, this is completely true in Sikong Ye's view. Then do you remember an octopus named Hachi in the Murloc pirates? I'm a bit impressed. Does that octopus Murloc have more protruding lips than the kissing Murloc? It seems to have 6 arms? Sikong Ye gestured in a pretentious manner. After hearing Sikong Ye's indifferent tone, Rayleigh's face became more serious, and the conquerors in his body gushed out uncontrollably. The conquerors locked on to Sikong Ye, apparently intending to give this frivolous teenager a taste of the social whack. However, Sikong Ye was not a vegetarian, and immediately covered the venom suit, letting the venom bear the impact of conquerors from Pluton Rayleigh. Venom can be immune to the spiritual attack of Ghost Rider in Marvel, and its powerful spiritual defense ability can be imagined. Coupled with the fusion of the internet fruit, a fruit with soul power or spiritual power as the core, it can be completely immune to anyone's Conqueror's Haki. Seeing that Conqueror's Haki had no effect on Sikong Ye, Rayleigh's face turned even darker. I just wanted to give the opponent a bad start, but I didn't expect to miss it. The most important thing is that I returned it so inexplicably. Even he himself didn't understand what happened. Xiao Ba used to be my benefactor. Since you killed him, the old man will naturally seek justice for Xiao Ba. Rayleigh draws back conquerors, revealing his purpose. As the deputy of One Piece, he didn't have a hidden personality. Since he had a grudge, he naturally put it on the table. The crew couldn't believe it when they heard Rayleigh's story. How could someone as powerful as Pluton Rayleigh be saved by that war scum? You know, Pluton Rayleigh is the right-hand man of One Piece Luo Jia. Regarding this matter, Sikong Ye knew some inside information as a time traveler. Asking for flowers. As the deputy captain of the Luo Jia pirates, his strength is beyond doubt. In the original book, Shaki once told Luffy that Rayleigh is 100 times stronger than him, which is enough to show how strong Rayleigh is. However, Rayleigh loves to swim, and happened to encounter a storm at sea, and it happened that Zalba passed by and saved Rayleigh's life. Get justice. Old man Rayleigh, isn't it a bit funny to talk about this among pirates? As a pirate, shouldn't you be prepared to die the moment you go to sea? The Murloc pirates have made up their minds, and our Ziwei pirates have also made up their minds. Isn't it normal that the brave wins when we meet on a narrow road? You come here to intervene now, can't you afford to lose? If you can't afford to lose, why don't you just let Xiao Ba go home for the elderly? As a senior pirate, you should set an example for the younger generation. If everyone has grudges and grudges, wouldn't the rules of pirates become the biggest joke on the sea? What Sikong Ye said made Rayleigh speechless in an instant. Rayleigh opened his mouth several times to refute, but for a while he didn't know where to start. If Rayleigh was someone like Clock Doll, Gecko Moria, Doflamingo, he might not really care about the rules of the pirates. After all, pirates are the representative of disorder. But Rayleigh belongs to the kind of pirates whose goal is to pursue freedom and dreams. Like Luo Jia, he encourages those young pirates who have dreams and pursue freedom to go out to sea and take risks. Now that Xiao Ba has become a pirate with the awareness of death, if he dies in the process of pursuing freedom, it can only be blamed on Xiao Ba's lack of strength. But people's positions are diverse. From the standpoint of freedom and dreams, there is really nothing wrong with Xiao Ba's death. But what about standing in the position of repaying gratitude? After only a few seconds of hesitation, Rayleigh walked out of Sikong Ye's verbal trap. I am here this time to represent my personal identity. Hearing what Rayleigh said, Sikong Ye was somewhat disappointed, but he still planned to use his mouth to make Rayleigh give up seeking revenge. I'm wondering, when Luo Jia was executed by Marine, why didn't you enter Marineford to avenge your own captain? Facing Sikong Ye's inquiry, Rayleigh only responded lightly, it was the captain's voluntary, and I respect the captain's wishes. Your friendship with Luo Jia should be quite deep, right? Even the Golden Lion went to Marineford to make a fuss, and you didn't do anything. You didn't even protect Luo Jia's wife and children. That's how you repay your captains. Sikong Ye sneered, it was so harsh in Rayleigh's ears. Of course, Rayleigh had heard about the Bathrola incident, but he was not aware of Luo Jia's arrangements for his wife and children at the time. Later, it was too late to make up for it, and Marine disposed of all the pregnant women and children during that time period. Luo Jia's wife and children are probably no longer alive. Rayleigh thought of this, and there was a trace of sadness in his eyes. Ace, who was standing behind Sikong Ye, clenched his fists tightly, his eyes became more and more cold. I didn't know about that matter. If I knew, I would definitely protect the captain's wife and his children. 8. Chapter 207 Dogship Bullet, Sikong Ye Routine Rayleigh. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. After listening to Rayleigh's answer, Sikong Ye continued to ask the next question. I remember there was a guy named Bullet in the Luo Jia pirates. He was arrested by Marine and imprisoned and impelled down. As the deputy captain, why don't you rescue him? Hearing the word, dog shit, Rayleigh was stunned for a while. Is there anyone with that name on board? Immediately afterwards, Rayleigh realized that Sikong Ye was talking about Bullet, so he corrected. That guy's name is Douglas Bullet. Is there a difference? Doug is a dog. As for the flat tongue, do you need to distinguish it so clearly? Are you trying to change the subject? Sikong Ye looked like he saw through Rayleigh's trick. Rayleigh's head was full of black lines when he heard the words. The rest of the crew wanted to laugh when they heard that their captain was messing around, but they couldn't laugh in front of Rayleigh, so as not to attract Rayleigh's death stare. That guy Bullet was imprisoned by Marine and impelled down. He asked for it. There is no need for me to pay for other people's stupidity. Rayleigh's tone was cold. That year, after Luo Jia was executed, Bullet thought he had no chance to win against Luo Jia and immediately lost his goal. So he started to run wild on the sea, bringing the whole sky and sea upside down with 140. Later Marine launched a buster call to it, and even Garp and Sengoku also dispatched. Although Bullet and Marine launched a heroic duel, fatigue gradually accumulated, and their physical strength was gradually exhausted by buster call. The pirates he defeated before also launched a surprise attack. In the end, Bullet was defeated and was imprisoned by Marine and impelled down. After hearing Rayleigh's answer, Sikong Ye grinned slightly. One is voluntary, and the other is self-inflicted. In this case, Zauba voluntarily followed the Murloc Arlong to harm ordinary people, and was finally killed by us. Didn't he Mei Wen ask for it? Rayleigh. Oops. I got caught. At this moment, there was a look of horror in Rayleigh's eyes. It turned out that the series of clichés just now were paving the way for the end. And he didn't notice the abnormality until Sikong Ye tried to see him. Facing Sikong Ye's questioning, Rayleigh fell silent for a while. Zauba voluntarily followed Arlong to fish and meet the common people, so naturally he had to pay for his actions. Being caught doing evil and dying at the hands of Ziwei pirates is indeed self-inflicted. The three are connected. He didn't avenge Luo Jia back then, and he didn't get involved in Bullet's affairs, but today he came to avenge Xiao Ba. No matter how you look at it, it feels like a double standard. And many more. No, Zauba is kind to him. What does this have to do with Luo Jia and Bullet? It is normal for Rayleigh to be unaware of the Bathrola incident and unable to help. As for Bullet, that's pure suicide. It was his duty to save Bullet, and it was his duty not to save him. How could it make him feel guilty? This Sikong Ye is poisonous. Absolutely toxic. From the beginning to the end, he was playing with false logic, just trying to lead him astray and make him give up his revenge against the Ziwei pirates. Boy Sikong, don't always talk about Captain Luo Jia and Bullet. The old man won't be changed by your few words. Sensing Rayleigh's reaction again, Sikong Ye is completely at a loss. It seems that today's tough battle has to be fought. It's nice to say, it's not because Marine is strong, you don't dare to take revenge, so you have to confess and do nothing. On the contrary, you think our Z-Way pirates are easy to bully, so they came to us with great fanfare for revenge. Bullying the weak and fearing the strong, Rayleigh. What the hell, the old man is here to seek revenge, you always want to give God a crime. If you have to ruin the old man's reputation, you kid will not give up, right? HMPH, today the old man shamelessly wants to teach you an unforgettable lesson. No matter what you say, Zalba's fair old man must get it back. Tell me, old man Rayleigh, how do you want justice? Sikong Ye spread his hands, very disrespectful. For such old fritters, Sikong Ye feels that mouth escape is completely useless. He did think about exposing his identity as an undercover marine and making Rayleigh fall into the trap. As long as the three of Wapol are dealt with afterwards, and then threaten Rayleigh with a wave, basically there is no need to worry about leakage. But Sikong Ye still felt unsafe. After all, Shaki was an information businessman, and it was very unlikely that Rayleigh would not inform Shaki of this matter. And once Shaki knows, it means that most of the forces know. He is not willing to hand over his handle to the old man and old woman who have resentment towards their pirate group. It's very simple, I just need to kill Zoro, the little aide, and cut off one of his arms, and of course you, the captain, have to cut off an arm, so the old man will spare you all. After Rayleigh said the conditions, everyone in Z-Way Pirates looked at each other in blank dismay. It doesn't seem difficult, does it? With Kaya's horse spell ability, it's not a problem to cut it off and put it back on. Even if the arm is destroyed by Rayleigh, Kaya can still be healed. I reject, however, after Sikong Ye thought about it, he finally shook his head. This is not a question of whether to cut hands or not, but a question of face. If every time they beat the young ones and jumped out the old ones, wouldn't Zhang Yi have to compromise with these powerful enemies? Impossible. This will only make those people gain more ground. How will he mess around in the sea in the future? Rayleigh is strong, but not without a chance of winning. Don't forget that there is still Aokiji in their camp. If under the threat of a powerful enemy, he would let himself or his crew make sacrifices, then he would never even think about leading the team. Captain, do you want to stop thinking about it? It's just an arm, we can afford to chop it off. Usopp tried to persuade the captain to turn it into a trivial matter. Moreover, when he first boarded the boat, he had his hand chopped off by Sikong Ye, so he didn't think it was a big deal, so he just asked Kaya to pick him up. To shut up, Zoro snorted coldly. Is this a problem with the two arms? This is a matter of face and dignity. Are you sure to refuse? Rayleigh had already guessed that the other party would make such a choice, without any surprised expression on his face, as if he was waiting for Sikong Ye to refuse and do it himself. Just as Sikong Ye was about to speak, Aokiji stood up suddenly, stretched his waist, and walked to the edge of the Emperor's Star. Oh, isn't this Luojia's deputy, Pluton Rayleigh, who doesn't live in Sabaody for the elderly, but goes to the vicinity of Magnetic Drum Island to bully the newcomers of the pirates? It feels a bit fresh. As soon as Aokiji opened his mouth, the old yin and yang entered. Barely worse than Kizaru. The old man should feel fresh. First didn't expect Marine Admiral Aokiji to be mixed with a pirate group. Rayleigh put his finger on the top of the glasses, with a Conan-possessed look that sees through everything. I'm just taking a ride with the wind. The marshal arranged for me to focus on hunting down Teach, and I have no time to take care of other pirates for the time being. Aokiji yawned, and it seemed natural to lie. So, what are you going to do now when you stand up? I've heard that Pluton Rayleigh is very strong, and I want to compete with you. After Aokiji finished speaking, he jumped off the Emperor's Star and at the same time formed a piece of ice on the sea surface, covering Wapol's king bully. However, the Emperor's Star was not affected. Seeing this, Sikong Ye immediately sent Aokiji's bicycle off the boat, and then ordered Nami to drive the Emperor's Star to leave from the sky. Aokiji Admiral is doing well. If you want to catch it, you should catch the big pirate. We little pirates should leave it to Vice Admiral and Rear Admiral to gain experience. Sikong Ye stood on the edge of the deck and waved to Aokiji. His heart was already happy flower. You can really climb up the pole. Those Vice Admiral Rear Admiral will become experience packs when they meet you. Rayleigh. After I feel that my strength has become stronger, I'm a little swayed. Sikong Ye recalled the wretchedness when he used the Yumi Bode spirit to avoid the strong before, and then looked at Rayleigh who dared to be tough today. He didn't feel guilty about selling Aokiji at all. Who of you wants to follow me to recruit new partners on Island 2.0? Sikong Ye asked the partners. How do you feel that Aokiji was sold? As for Kuina, Kaya, New Okagawa, Makino, Tashigi, Robin and Usopp, they chose to stay on the Emperor's Star. Of course, Pochi and Lakey were also left on the Emperor's Star. Immediately there's a sense of growth. Laboon was ordered by Sikong Ye to dive into the bottom of the sea and not to show his head for the time being. To be on the safe side, Sikong Ye ordered the little star to drive the Emperor's Star to a high altitude, and also allowed the crew to hide in Nuachigao's planting ship first, in case they were suddenly attacked by Rayleigh. Soon, the partners split into two groups. As for Sikong Ye's life safety, there is no need to worry too much, his trump card is not vegetarian. This time, he decided to divide his troops into two groups, one of which followed him to recruit Chopper, and the other was responsible for stationing the Emperor's Star. In the group on the left, All 6 members of the 7 Kills team were present, including Kuina, Nami, Bartolomeo and others. This may be the mentality of the strong, but why is Aokiji still counting money for Z-Way pirates after being sold? Sikong Ye doesn't care what Aokiji and Rayleigh think. As Marine's undercover agent, it's only natural for Aokiji to stay behind them. It seems that we need to speed up, otherwise Aokiji will be tired, and we will suffer if Rayleigh comes over to harm us. Sikong Ye made up his mind, and left Magnetic Drum after recruiting Chopper. The Emperor Star left the sea area where Aokiji and Rayleigh fought, and soon came to the port of Magnetic Drum Island. Obviously, the distance between the two places is not very far. Chapter 208 Torin. Chopper hasn't met Shirulik yet. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. Sikong Ye and his party of 10 had just jumped off the Emperor Star and were about to land on the island, when they were stopped by a group of villagers holding all kinds of messy weapons, with menacing expressions on their faces. Seeing this scene, the corner of Sikong Ye's mouth twitched. He came to Magnetic Drum Island 10 years in advance. Why is the plot still developing towards the original book? For these frightened birds, Sikong Ye didn't bother to talk too much. Since he blocked the way, he should beat them up. Just be honest. They're too busy recruiting that shy reindeer, Chopper. Drum Island, covered with snow all the year round, got its name because the peaks on the island are shaped like a magnetic drum, and it is known as a medical power. At this time, there were 2 groups of people standing on the shore. One group of people was naturally Z-Way's group, and the other group was a guard army spontaneously formed by local young and middle-aged people on Tegu Island. It was snowing heavily, and the guards were wrapped up tightly, but Sikong Ye and his team were all dressed thinly, which was out of tune with the cold wind howling and heavy snow blowing. Captain Big Brother, it's so cold. Can you take off your clothes and let me wear them? Nami said pitifully, crossing his arms. There is an air conditioner on the Emperor Star, which is warm in winter and cool in summer, and the temperature is pleasant. Most of the partners on board are wearing autumn clothes due to training. Leaving the Emperor Star now, the coldness swept over everyone's body in an instant. Sikong Ye curled his lips. I was only wearing a thin blue sweater, so if I take it off for you, I will be naked? But he just complained in his heart, and then he took out a set of thermal clothes from the system space and handed them to Nami, and at the same time, he also handed a set to each of the 14 other crew members, and finally put on a warm suit for himself. Knowing that he was coming to Magnetic Drum Island, Sikong Ye naturally made preparations long ago. When Z-Way and his gang put on their padded jackets, Dalton, who was wearing a green robe and had a Chinese face, led the guards and gradually surrounded them. Pirate, listen up, get out of here quickly. Dalton, who looked much younger than the original, shouted to Sikong Ye and others in a deep voice, and the rest of the guards aimed their weapons at Z-Way and his group, all with fierce faces. I refuse. Luffy crossed his arms, not buying the other party at all. Ever since Luffy was attacked by Ska, a villain from Shimotsuki village, he has disliked such people, so he was the first to jump out. Don't get me wrong, we didn't come to Magnetic Drum Island to rob or kill people, but to recruit a partner. Sikong Ye shook the snowflakes on his shoulders. His tone was as indifferent as ice. As for whether the other party believes it or not, in fact, he doesn't really care. In the original book, Nami was infected with some virus in Little Garden and became ill. Luffy and others had to compromise to save their partners, kneel down and pray for Dalton and his party, and then they were able to enter Magnetic Drum Island. In Sikong Ye's view, Vivi and Luffy's behavior of kneeling is an emphasis on friendship, and he may consider empathy if he has to. But now, he has no intention of admitting to a group of troublemakers. If Dalton has sense, get out of the way, and they'll leave when they find Chopper. If this guy doesn't know good from bad, then give him a good beating. Damn pirate, don't try to deceive us with such words. I think you all want to use the excuse of finding someone to sneak into the island and start killing, so I won't believe you. Get out, pirate. Yes, leave our homeland. I'll say it again, leave Magnetic Drum Island. If you are stubborn and continue to move forward, don't blame me for ordering to shoot. Dalton said, issuing an ultimatum to the 10 Sikong Ye people. Facing the denunciation of the crowd, Sanji lit a cigarette and said helplessly, I'm hated. After all, we are pirates, so it's normal for them to hate us. Sabo spread his hands and responded. Sikong Ye raised a finger and said, I'll just say it again, I'm here to look for someone on Magnetic Drum Island, and I'll leave when I find it. Don't blame me for being rude if anyone gets in the way. There are always people who want to harm me. The identity of the pirate is indeed black. This is something that Sikong Ye has already done. But it doesn't mean that Sikong Ye will allow those people to step on them wantonly. These people were persecuted by other pirates. What's the matter with Z-Way pirates? He doesn't take the blame. If you treat me well, I will treat you well. If you dare to bark your teeth at me, you will be beaten up. Boom. Just then, a gunshot rang out. Luffy's head was tilted back. Sikong Ye and others turned their heads to look, and found that there was a hole deep in the flesh on Luffy's head. Behind Dalton, the man who fired the gun found himself shot in the head, looked happy, and pretended to blow the smoke from the muzzle of the gun. This move completely angered Sikong Ye and his party. Little ones, call me. These people just need to clean up. Sikong Ye greeted and rushed out immediately. What happened to civilians? Are civilians amazing? What happened to the pirates? have the pirates eaten your rice? Sikong Ye will not compromise with a group of civilians in order to enter Magnetic Drum Island like Vivi and Luffy in the original book. He even dared to face up to Rayleigh. Why should a group of civilians give him a face? Luffy's face was full of anger. He was attacked by civilians in Shimotsuki village last time, and he was attacked by civilians again today. Could it be that he is so annoying? So the little fist greeted those guards and worked harder. Ping pong in just 5 or 6 minutes, the guards were completely dealt with by Sikong Ye and his team. Dalton, the Tauren who is capable of the Nianyu fruit, lasted a little longer than the others, but he fell down after only a few minutes of carrying it. Ziwei and his gang did not kill. After all, they are a group of ordinary people, just give them a little lesson. Next, Sikong Ye took the crew to the interior of Magnetic Drum Island to find Chopper. However, after Sikong Ye and his group visited all the towns and villages on Magnetic Drum Island, they did not find any trace of Chopper. Instead, he was the first to find Chopper's adoptive father, Shirulik. Shirulik wears a black top hat, and the hair on both sides is in the shape of a magnetic drum, similar to the Drum Island, and his old face is slightly sick. Wearing a tuxedo on the upper body, I don't know if I will feel cold. What are you talking about, Chopper? I've never seen it before, I'm still a proud bachelor. Faced with Sikong Ye's question, Hiruluk shook his head like a rattle, expressing that he had no knowledge. In this regard, Sikong Ye repeatedly checked the expression of Hiruluk, and found that it did not seem to be fake, and the mood of the whole person was not good. Nima, is it possible that Chopper and Hiruluk haven't met yet? If so, will Chopper still be a doctor like in the original book? Doesn't it matter if you don't become a doctor? After all, as a ship doctor, Kaya can cure all diseases and injuries. Basically there is no need to add additional ship doctors. Moreover, the tangerine fruit of New Okagao also has a healing effect to a certain extent. In addition, Luo will also join them, which is equivalent to 3 ship doctors. Chopper is completely dispensable. Of course, Sikong Ye was referring to the ship doctor. Chopper is a reindeer who ate the fruit of everyone. He is very likely to become a member of the army breaking team and open the auxiliary ship and pet ship. Therefore, Sikong Ye has to find Shiba no matter what. Kuina, you give this guy a passive contract. Sikong Ye secretly sent a message to Kuina, and then bid farewell to Shiruluk. Although the relationship between Hiruluk and Chopper is very good in the original book, but they don't know each other now after all, so there is no need to pay too much attention to it. As for marking the heroic spirit contract, it is natural to plan to recruit Hiruluk to work under his command after his death. Of course, if Hiruluk has become the adoptive father of Chopper, Sikong Ye would not mind letting Kaya heal Hiruluk. After leaving Shiruluk, Sikong Ye came to Wapol's palace and found Kuleha who occupied the palace for his own use. Kureha is over 140 years old. However, on the surface, she looks like a trendy old lady in her 60s or 70s, wearing sunglasses and a purple tights. If she lived in the previous life, she must be the leader of the square dancing ant. You mean reindeer? Blue-nosed? And eat human fruit? My mother has never seen such a strange thing. Kuleha took a sip of beer, her cheeks flushed slightly, she shook her head repeatedly, expressing that she had never seen such a strange creature. Signing Kuleha into the ranks of heroic spirits, Sikong Ye and his team bid farewell to this very energetic and ultimate old lady. After leaving the palace, Sikong Ye pondered over and over again. I think the only place where Chopper could be at the moment should be the forested areas on Drum Island where the beasts appear. As a reindeer abandoned by the herd, Chopper is necessarily alone at the moment. Since Hiruluk has not met Chopper yet, it is very likely that Chopper will survive alone, and the forest area is obviously the best place for Chopper to survive. Informing his partner of his analysis, Sikong Ye said, it stands to reason that it would be more time-saving to act separately, but it is not safe. Rayleigh may get rid of Aokiji Admiral's block at any time. So we'd better get together and speed up the search for the forest. After listening to Sikong Ye's assignment, Sabo frowned and asked, Captain, does the reindeer you mentioned named Chopper really exist? Why do you have to recruit him? Regarding Sabo's doubts, Sikong Ye knew very well that the other party was worried that they were doing futile work. Not only would they not be able to find the target at that time, but it would not be worth the loss if Rayleigh caught up with him. But Sikong Ye can be sure that Chopper must exist, and has even eaten the fruit of everyone and mastered some human languages. Chapter 209 Fudge Chopper joins. Rayleigh gets rid of Aokiji. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. Of course Chopper is here, otherwise how would I know he is on Drum Island? Sikong Ye only answered Sabo's first question. As for why you have to recruit Chopper, of course it is because Chopper is very likely to be the key to unlock the pet ship. However, before seeing Chopper, it was just a possibility. Sikong Ye has white eyes, and it is most convenient to investigate the terrain and the surrounding creatures, so he directly led his partners to lock the southern forest and began to investigate bit by bit. The rest of the crew followed Sikong Ye to make soy sauce. There is no way, Rayleigh is eyeing him, and Zanpakutō Senbonzakura dare not split into 2 groups. The process of investigation is boring, the sky is constantly snowing, and the forest is full of snow. Looking around, I feel that many places are similar. If Sikong Ye hadn't rolled his eyes, he would probably have lost his way in the forest. After checking the southern forest, Sikong Ye began to check the eastern forest, followed by the northern forest, based on the principle of proximity. When checking the last area of the northern forest, Sikong Ye saw a strange creature hiding behind a tree trunk with its whole body and half of its head exposed. Blue-nosed civet cat. Brown hair all over. Stand like a human being. Showing the whole body and half of the head. The look, behavior and shyness of this creature is definitely Chopper. For a moment, Tong Kongyi's eyes lit up. Good guy, I finally found you. It's easy for me to find. Sikong Ye led the crew to quickly approach Chopper's location. However, as soon as he got close to the 50-meter range around Chopper, Chopper changed into a human form, by the way, like a frightened bird. Although it is in human form, it still looks like a fur-covered creature on the outside, but it is more inclined to fur tribes than humans. In fact, this is also normal. No matter how the zone fruit transforms into any form, it will always retain some of the characteristics of the original body. In the original book, Chopper was originally a reindeer in the herd. His natural blue nose disgusted his parents, so he was abandoned by his parents. He was even discriminated against by the reindeer herd. Even though he was a newborn baby deer at the time, he often walked behind the herd alone. This reason for abandonment is what Sikong Ye wants to complain about the most. You are a group of reindeer, and you still engage in discrimination. It is simply less disgusting than humans. What happened to the blue nose? Does blue nose have no deer rights? Later, Chopper tried to turn into a human because he ate the renren fruit by mistake, but he turned out to be not human, and was rejected by humans instead. This is why Chopper is extremely repulsive and fearful of both deer and humans. Even though Chopper harbored the idea of being close to human beings in his heart, he did not dare to put it into action, for fear of being hurt again. In the original book, I met Hylaluk and gradually opened my heart, and then I joined the Straw Hat Pirates and followed Luffy to go out to sea for adventure. It is not easy for Sikong Ye to open Chopper's heart now. Don't be afraid, Chopper, we didn't come to catch you. My name is Sikong Ye, and I plan to recruit you to join my pirate team. Sikong Ye didn't know if it would work if he said so. After all, Chopper doesn't know Hyrulik yet, so he didn't inherit the will of the pirates, so whether to join the pirates or not has become an unknown. Who is Chopper? Chopper's words not only stunned the crew, but also stunned Sikong Ye himself. The crew members were puzzled. It stands to reason that since the captain recognized Chopper, the raccoon in front of him should be right. But why doesn't Chopper know his name is Chopper? Could it be that you lost your memory? Or is there a second blue-nosed reindeer who ate the man fruit? Impossible. There will only be one devil fruit at a time, so it won't be the other form of human fruit, right? The possibility that two human fruits with different shapes will happen to be eaten by reindeer is infinitely close to zero. So, what is the situation now? In fact, Sikong Ye was also a little confused. In the original book, Tong Kongye can't remember whether Chopper's name was given by Chopper himself or by Hylaluk. But in the current situation, it seems that Chopper's name was given by Hylaluk. It's not his fault, after all, who can remember all the plots in One Piece clearly. Chopper is your name. Your full name is Tony Stark. Wrong. Your full name is Tony Chopper. Don't you remember me? I used to be your master. When you were born, I even fed you milk. Don't you remember it all? Sikong Ye started the Dafa of fooling around. Chopper's vigilance is too high. If he doesn't make some connections, Chopper must have a grudge against him. Although time can affect everything, what Sikong Ye lacks most now is time. So we can only take risks. The rest of the crew looked at each other, unable to figure out Sikong Ye's routine for a while. On the contrary, Luffy and Bartolomeo believed deeply in the captain's words, and were instantly moved to tears by the captain's deed of seeking favor from thousands of miles away. 52. I'm really afraid of the group of guys on the boat whose IQ is not online. He doubts that one day he will be pulled to the same IQ level by Luffy. I don't remember. Chopper read out the human words jerkily. Although, Chopper didn't have any impression of Sikong Ye, but his vigilance was lowered a little bit. Obviously Sikong Ye's routine worked. It's okay if you don't remember. After all, you were too young at that time. Now that I have found you, I can slowly tell you about the past. Sikong Ye continued to fool around. You. Why? Abandoned me? Chopper did not agree, but asked out the doubts in his heart. That's how it is. Back then, I had to leave temporarily because of something urgent. Now that I'm done with my work, I'll come to you right away. Wow, it's so touching, Captain, you really admire me. Bartolomeo was crying so hard that Chopper looked dazed. Shouldn't it be me who should cry? And Luffy was also in tears, and said something vaguely in his mouth. Wow. Captain. I didn't expect you and pets to have such a good relationship. I want to have a pet. Chopper. Wearing a straw hat, don't you envy me for having such a good master? Sikong Ye. Can you two stop making trouble, making it seem like I specially asked you to be trustees? Although I'm a big liar, I really don't need you two guys to work so hard to shed tears this round. Master. The next moment, Chopper burst into tears, turned back into a civet cat state, and threw himself into Sikong Ye's arms, crying loudly. Seeing this, Sikong Ye twitched the corner of his mouth. Good guy, so you eat this set. If I had known this earlier, I should have let the other crew members cry along with me. In fact, if you think about it carefully, Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper are known as the three idiots of the Straw Hats in the original book. From this point of view, it is really not difficult to fool Chopper. Sikong Ye hugged Chopper tightly, and secretly glanced at the floating frame above Chopper's head. Potential partner, Tony Chopper, available positions, breaking the army. Assessment of combat power, Class F, included features, none. Sikong Ye was surprised. Since Chopper was assigned to the breaking army, maybe he could really start his long-awaited battle pet ship. In fact, in Sikong Ye's impression, besides Chopper, there are almost no other partners who can open the pet ship. If Chopper is not, then the only possibility is Fur or Murloc. Chopper, don't call me Master from now on. Since you ate the fruit of everyone, I will regard you as my partner. Sikong Ye hugged Chopper tightly in his arms. Didn't mind Chopper's tears soaking his shirt in the slightest. Chopper just kept nodding, looking extremely cute. Coupled with the furry body, it feels as good as touching a cat. Sikong Ye was instantly addicted and kept stroking Chopper's back. After smoking for a full 10 minutes, Sikong Ye reluctantly put the chopper down. He was afraid to touch it any further, because Yinba's back was about to be mastered by him. Chopper, would you, Danuahao, be willing to join my pirate group? Sikong Ye asked a routine question about recruiting new partners. I do, Chopper yelled back, bouncing back through tears. Seeing that Chopper was fooled into boarding the ship by the captain's big brother so easily, Nami couldn't help curling his lips. The captain's big brother is really bad. Even such a cute little civet cat can be fooled. Even though Nami didn't do anything, there was a sense of guilt in her heart. Ding. Regular task. Recruiting partners. The 16th ring has been completed. Please choose devil fruit. Option 1. Ball fruit. Option 2. Paper fruit. Option 3. Hat fruit. The 3 devil fruit Sikong Ye have no impression at all this time. They should be novelty fruits that the system found somewhere. When Sikong Ye was about to check the profiles of the 3 devil fruits, a sharp knife light suddenly appeared in front of him. Before he had time to think about it, Sikong Ye quickly rolled on the ground with Chopper in his arms, barely dodging that attack. Sikong Ye looked towards the direction where the sword energy was released, and found that Rayleigh had appeared near the forest at some point. How did you get away? Sikong Ye is now in a state of confusion. It's only been 5 hours since he entered Magnetic Drum Island, so it stands to reason that Aokiji should be able to hold on for a while longer before facing a G. Chapter 210 Z-Way Team Battle Rayleigh, the terrifying strength gap. Put on the shelves and ask for a subscription to ask for a flower ticket. Why is Rayleigh off the hook now? Where did Aokiji go? Sikong Ye couldn't figure it out. Could it be that Aokiji left after a little thought? Do you want to be so pitted? Both Rayleigh and Aokiji are well-known powerhouses in the sea. Wouldn't it make sense for the two to fight for a day and a night? But no matter what Sikong Ye thinks, the fact is that Aokiji is gone, but Rayleigh is looking for them. Aokiji left after hearing my promise not to take your lives. Rayleigh said with a smile, still maintaining a kind expression on the surface. Not to take our lives. When Sikong Ye heard what Rayleigh said, he believed it from the bottom of his heart. After all, Rayleigh doesn't bother to lie about this kind of thing. But no matter what, Sikong Ye will definitely not be passively beaten. Octopus Zalba followed the Murloc Arlong to cause harm to the party, and it was wrong to kill him. Sikong Ye didn't feel any guilt at all. Not to mention that Zoro will pay for it. Boy Sikong, I'm actually curious, why did Aokiji help you? Rayleigh was not in a hurry to attack. The knife just now was just telling Sikong Ye and others that he was coming, that's all. Otherwise, with Rayleigh's great swordsmanship, it would be effortless to kill Sikong Ye instantly. You said Aokiji Admiral, he not only rubbed against my boat, but also ate my meal, which is equivalent to owe me a favor. It shouldn't be a problem to ask him to help me stop you. Sikong Ye is not going to tell Rayleigh about his relationship with Marine. Inside the Z-Way pirates, only Kebi, Tashigi and Zoro clearly knew this. A few of the rest of the crew had vague guesses, and the rest of the Tai Han didn't think he was an undercover Marine at all. Is it really? Otherwise, do you think I, 577, will tell you about Aokiji's injury? Sikong Ye rolled his eyes directly. Rayleigh, did you accidentally slip your mouth, or did you say it on purpose? If it was intentional, is your statement true or false? For a while, Rayleigh brainstormed a lot of things, and finally felt that it was Sikong Ye's intention. A teenager who can lure him into a trap with a few words will not make such a low-level mistake. The point is, when he fought against Aokiji before, he could really feel that Aokiji's movements were a little uncoordinated. Well, for the sake of satisfying the old man's curiosity, I can lower the requirements. As long as one of you and Zoro cuts off his own arm, I will let you go. Rayleigh stared straight at Sikong Ye, waiting for Sikong Ye to make a choice. Hearing this multiple-choice question, Sikong Ye fell silent, and the rest of the crew did not speak, and the scene became quiet for a while. Wow! Snow fell from a fir tree, startled Chopper, and immediately hugged Sikong Ye's left foot. The rest of the crew also drew their knives and released their abilities as if they were frightened. all pointing in the direction of Rayleigh. Sikong Ye turned a deaf ear to this, just bent down and gently stroked Chopper's head as if he had nothing to do with himself. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Sikong Ye never responded, just licking Chopper all the time, with that intoxicated look, so reclusive and independent. Kuina and Nami saw Sikong Ye playing with Chopper in the snow like a beautiful picture. The hearts of the two little girls beat faster than expected. Ace and Sanji couldn't help feeling a little anxious when they saw that their captain hadn't responded. Sabo smiled slightly, as if he understood what the captain did. How are you thinking? Rayleigh waited impatiently. Didn't I already tell you the answer with my actions? Sikong Ye smiled and stood up slowly. He had already rejected it before, and he didn't want to refuse it a second time. No matter whose hand is chopped off, it's a sign of cowardice. HMPH, since that's the case, then don't blame the old man for being rude. If you accidentally take away a few more arms, don't blame me. Rayleigh's patience seemed to be exhausted, and as soon as he finished speaking, he swung his knife lightly and slashed at Sikong Ye with ease. Thorn. The ground burst instantly. This knife, with momentum like a rainbow, penetrates the sky. Its power and momentum are even stronger than Hawkeye. 9 blades Ashura Mo Qianshan. Zoro's eyes were full of fighting spirit. Regardless of whether he could block the move, he rushed to the front of all his partners first. The figure transforms into the form of Ashura, and while pulling out 3 knives, he casts a ghostly aura to transform the other 6 knives. This is 9 blades. In addition to the transformation of the 9 sword style, another significant change is that this time Mo Qianshan did not use the magic knife Qianran as the main knife to attack. It is the full version of the 9 swords Ryumo Thousand Flash with Senbonzakura as the main sword, and the magic sword Senkin and Tegu Kaleidoscope as the auxiliary. Based on the number of blade fragments of Senbonzakura, it is not an exaggeration to say that it is a magic flash or a magic billion flash. But with the naked eye, it is impossible to count how many fragments there are. In order to ensure that Mo Qianshan could actually attack the enemy, Zoro ejected Tegu's ever-changing silk threads and covered Rayleigh's surroundings. To ensure that traps were set on all possible escape routes for Rayleigh. However, the prerequisite for these traps to come in handy is that Zoro can resist Rayleigh's move, which is like a natural barrier. Curry stick. On Zoro's side, Kuina stood at the front row of the line. The golden light that shines in the world blooms on the Magnagdrum Island, and uses it as radiation to sweep to all corners of the entire paradise, causing the beef sea to vibrate again. From the appearance, the golden light is enough to be equal to Rayleigh's sword energy, but in terms of the quality of the sword energy, it must be Rayleigh's complete explosion of Kuina. The roar of the fire iron dragon, Ace and Sabo immediately displayed a recently developed combination move, with a strong mel wind and scorching heat. Like laser shells ejected from the mouths of Ace and Sabo, 2 powerful energies of silver black and orange red gathered together, and then shot straight towards Leihei's location. Magic Oak 3rd Gear Alboff's Spear. Luffy also uses the latest ability learned in Little Garden, which is also the strongest ability that Luffy can currently use. In order to maximize its power, Luffy took the lead in entering the 2nd gear state to increase his physical fitness. Then enter the 3rd gear full Titan mode, which is the precondition for casting Albuff's gun. After completing the transformation, Luffy has reached a height of more than 50 meters at this time, and the steam emitted from his body is not to mention how scary. It's a bit like the gigantic Titan in Attack on Titan, but Luffy has skin and clothes on him. Since Luffy has no weapons at hand, his fist is the tip of Albuff's gun. Shock the barrier. Bartolomeo was also not to be outdone and displayed his strongest ability at the moment. However, the 14 or 15-year-old Bartolomeo had just eaten the barrier fruit not long ago, and the impact barrier he developed could only block an area of 1 square meter. It can be said to be pitifully weak, but this can't be helped. Bartolomeo's boarding package is Kamui, and Kamui needs Sharingan to be developed to the Mangekyo level before it can be used. 1 Tomo Sharingan can't help Bartolomeo at all right now. Sanji and Kebi also wanted to step forward to help, but were stopped by Sikong Ye. As for Kebi's half-baked 8 inner gates, I'm afraid they can't even beat Murloc Arlong. And Sanji currently doesn't have any physical skills that can be used, so letting these 2 rush forward is purely death. As for Nami, the little girl is shivering behind him now, so let's not mention it. Nuclear Power Dark Emperor. After pulling Chopper off his legs and throwing it into the care of Sanji and Kirby, Sikong Ye covered himself in the venom suit and unleashed his long-lost Dark Fruit ability. Thorn. Rayleigh stood firmly on the spot, while Sikong Ye and his party were all blown away by the blast. Light and darkness occupy half of the sky. As for Rayleigh's colorless sword energy monopolizing half of the sky, the rest of the attacks are not that big of a move. Staggering and standing still, Sikong Ye's lavender eyes covered with venom were slightly congested, and double images would appear in front of him from time to time. And Zoro, lying on the ground at this moment, staring at his eyes, was just about to wake up and try to get up when Rayleigh stepped on the ground. 3 kilometers away from the center of the battlefield, Sikong Ye shook his head, got up from the ground, looked at the surrounding land without a speck of snow, and didn't realize where he was for a while. Boom. The entire forest on the north side of Sigu Island became bare in an instant, with no flowers, trees, or snowflakes. Darkness enveloped the entire boreal forest of Drum Island. His eyes were full of unwillingness. Although he has always lost to Kuina before, his will to refuse to admit defeat has always been high. The phenomenon of tinnitus made Sikong Ye unable to hear the sounds around him for a while. The only disadvantage is mana consumption, so Sikong Ye decisively allocated part of the energy of the nuclear energy fruit to cast Dark Emperor. Swish swish swish. But Sikong Ye saw that Rayleigh had already walked in front of Zoro, and seemed to have swung his knife at Zoro's arm. There is a faint golden glow to cover the release of Kuina curry sticks. The several attacks of Ziwei's group collided with Rayleigh's sword energy, which immediately exploded and radiated a powerful airwave. As the ultimate move of Dark Fruit, the Dark Emperor can release a large amount of darkness to the surroundings, which can not only cause a huge impact, but also devour all surrounding substances.